Hello, Closer. Thank you for joining me. Happy Saturdays, everybody. This is Saturday Smackdown Saturday. And go Vols. We are doing a wonderful job against LSU. God is good. This is a 3-part live pertaining to Debbie Collier. The FBI has now been brought in to assist in the investigation of her homicide. The Merced quadruple killings out of California. What led to these deaths? 3 people, relatives, and a baby. And Jeffrey Dahmer, what's the hype? Why is everybody arguing about this Netflix documentary and movie? What is really going on? Thank you for joining me. Let's get started.
Tell us here tonight into the tragic murder of a Merced family of 4. Sheriff Vern Warnke confirming the suspect, 48-year-old Jesus Salgado, worked for the victim's trucking business 2 years ago. CBS 47's Natalie Vera begins our team coverage.
The sheriff tells us this is very similar to a 2005 incident. It also involved a robbery and attempted kidnapping. The family in that case survived, but now Sheriff Borky tells us he believes Salgado had every intention to kill the Singhs from the very beginning.
The man is pure evil, and we need to deal with it.
Many questions continue surrounding the tragic death of a Merced family of 4. But on Thursday, Sheriff Vern Warnke giving a closer look at the possible motive.
One of the family members had talked to me previously and stated that he had worked for one of the family companies.
A family spokesperson says the suspect, Jesus Salgado, worked for the victim's trucking business a couple of years ago. The incident is similar to a 2005 case.
He had worked for another company, and he did a home invasion robbery on his former boss. And during that time, he held them hostage in their own home. The original case in 2005 was based upon his belief that that company owed him money. I believe it's similar on this one here.
The family in that case survived, and Salgado served 8 years in prison. Sheriff Warnke says he should have stayed behind bars. On Wednesday night, the bodies of Jasleen and Jasdeep Singh, as well as Amandeep Singh, an 8-month-old Aruhi dairy, were found in an orchard in a remote part of Merced County.
The father of the 2 men flew in from India this morning or last night, and he's here. He wants justice.
The sheriff is pushing for the death penalty.
This guy does not deserve to be breathing the same air as the good people in this county.
When asked about the manner of death, Warnke wasn't able to share much, but said the public would learn about it during trial. It was what he didn't say that revealed the most.
When it is finally discovered, if you don't agree with me on the evilness on this, there's something wrong.
He did say a forensic pathologist was working on determining the cause of the baby's death.
When our investigators were on scene, they didn't notice any traumatic injuries.
I also talked to a farmer who spoke to the owner of the orchard where those 4 bodies were found. He tells me employees are pretty shaken up and they're afraid about speaking out because the sheriff believes that Salgado had an accomplice that's still out there. Reporting in Merced, Natalie Vera, CBS 47, Eyewitness News.
Ever since the 2018 Farm Bill.
All right. The motive, money, allegedly. But you've committed this crime before. Jesus, are you mentally ill, schizophrenic? What is your problem? Because one's going to say, hey, you get mad at people and you just go out and kidnap them, rob them. And in this case, you murdered 4 people. You killed 3, and left the baby out to die in the elements. I guess some would say you were kinda half-ass decent, but then the flip side is the baby couldn't fend for herself. She's only 8 months old. You didn't have the heart to shoot the baby. Well, we thank you for that. But see, the downside is, as I just said, she couldn't fend for herself, so therefore she died out there, and you knew she would die out there. But for some reason, you couldn't shoot the baby. Interesting. You can shoot everybody else, but you couldn't shoot the baby. But you knew she would die. She had to be fed. Wild animals are out there. Coyotes, bobcats, wild dogs, other animals, vermin. In the end, you still didn't care. The sheriff believes you wanted to kill these people. So what I want to know is this revenge from doing prison time for the last kidnapping of your boss and his wife and 2 teenage daughters? Are you having flashbacks of that incident? Or is this an issue of you being drug-induced? You're a drug addict. What did you need the money for? Because people are going to ask these questions naturally. Why? Drug-induced, drug addict, revenge because it didn't pay you or didn't pay you enough, or what's the problem? So how did it go? You were expecting a check and didn't get it. You didn't get all your hours. You weren't making enough hourly. How long did you work for them? When did you start having problems with them? Or did they have problems with you? Because the last guy had problems with you and fired you. So now we're going to wonder, why did you get fired on the last job? And now you've brought down a whole house of cards. As I've always said, about one person is all it takes. As my mama used to say growing up, it only takes one monkey to stop the show. Indeed, one monkey. You are that monkey. But the sheriff says you had a sidekick and your brother's been arrested. So what role did your brother play? And why would he even participate in any fashion? Because the video doesn't show your brother. So did you involve him after the fact of the murders? Or maybe he was standing outside the fence where we couldn't see him and you picked him up. I don't know. Very sick. Prayers to this family and the community. People who live out there in the community, witness, I guess, who found the bodies, afraid to talk, afraid to be seen naturally, because they know that you are violent, although you're in the hospital, but your brother has aided you in some form or fashion, and they fear for their safety. And I get that, because they don't know who you know and who else could be involved and want to enact revenge for them coming forward. But it's still jacked up. Second storyline pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer. What is all the hype about? Everybody's getting their panties in a knot about what's truth, what's fact. What have I always told you guys about a story? The story depends on the version spun by the people in the story, the eyewitnesses, the people that knew the victim, the suspect, so on and so forth. You only know what people tell you, such as the news. When people go to interview the participants in the story, they don't know what actually happened. They just know what they're telling them. So in the end, it's the version and it's your interpretation and your perception of the information. So now we're arguing about Jeffrey Dahmer and what is truth and what is fiction. Family members are upset because they were not consulted on this Netflix series. Should they have contacted them? Everything's up for perception, interpretation. Different versions of Jeffrey Dahmer's life. Some things are dramatizations. You have to actually know what a dramatization is. Just like I pulled up one movie last night and it says dramatization, but based on factual information. Well, it can't be both. So which is it? It's facts or it's not. I've not watched it at all, of the Netflix. I'll get to it when I get to it. The point is, once again, it depends on who's spinning the web about Jeffrey Dahmer. And at this point, I know there's going to be things that's not going to be truthful and factual, just because we've already found Mr. Lionel lying about when he was getting drunk as a teenager. I've brought you 2 sources of information pertaining to Oprah Winfrey doing an interview, Inside Edition, and I believe it was Oprah's version where she asked him about him coming home drunk. It was either her or the Inside Edition one. Specifically, the lady asked, was he coming home drunk? Did you notice anything? I think it was the Inside Edition, if I'm not mistaken. He says no. Now I find a 2020 documentary where he's saying this is the reason why he and the wife sent him to live with the grandmother. So which is it, Lionel? And then you're crying in here, and I felt bad for you because maybe you have some remorse on how you raised your son and not noticing the signs that your son was ill, and him being withdrawn was the sign of a problem. I believe he took your marriage, your divorce, literally, besides what demons were already plaguing his mind. He already had some demons. And he was withdrawn as a child. That's number 2. 3, you all had marital problems. 4, he's going to have your qualities, each of you, you and the mother. The mother was a bit erratic, had some mental issues. You never verified what she had. You were the scientist, so he got all that chipping and chopping and drilling holes in people's heads from you, the scientific side. Either way, he's a product of you and your wife, good and bad. And he has some sick obsession with wanting to keep people near him and ultimately killing them. And then dismembering them, torturing, eating them. Too far down the rabbit hole. Let's go to law and crime and see what they have to say about this mess. Because I'm starting to wonder what the hell is going on with everybody. But I get it. It's a flip side to everything. So we're going to go down this rabbit hole and see what is what. A lot of people had some nasty things to say about this lady talking here on Law and Crime. A lot of people didn't like what she had to say. They felt like she was protecting the police officers that were laughing about the young boy that they sent back in that apartment with Jeffrey Dahmer. Let's chop this up for just a second.
And the reason this case has been in the news so much lately is because a new movie came out on Netflix. It was called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. It's been getting praised, but it's also been criticized by some for not getting the facts right. Now, a new documentary by Joel Berlinger is coming out on Netflix on Friday, October 7th. It is called Conversations with the Killer, the Jeffrey Dahmer tapes. And joining me to talk about this documentary is someone who is in it. And she actually broke the Dahmer story back in 1991 when she was working as a newspaper reporter. Her name is Anne E. Schwartz, and she has a new book coming out called Monster, the True Story of the Jeffrey Dahmer Murders. So Anne Schwartz, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me, Angie. I'm happy to have the conversation.
Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the movie, not the documentary, but the movie from Ryan Murphy that came out a couple of weeks ago on Netflix.
Right. Well, it's important to make the distinction between documentary and movie.
Hello, everybody.
I quarrel with whether or not Ryan Murphy stuck to the facts because he never said he was making a documentary. He portrayed a number of things in the movie that did not actually happen in real life. That happens when people take a true story and then adapt it for film. He had a very clear mission when he was doing that movie, which was he was going to show it and portray the victims, do this all from their lens, do this from their point of view. And so it wasn't surprising to me, I suppose, that there were a lot of inaccuracies, but is there such a thing as inaccuracies on a movie? You know, he gets to take all the artistic license. I don't begrudge him the opportunity to make a movie and to have the facts represent whatever he wants them to. What I am grateful to have the opportunity to do is to talk with you and to say, it's a movie. Don't watch this movie. Don't be outraged by certain situations that are portrayed specifically involving the police. Don't portray that is exactly what happened, because it did not.
And a movie is a dramatic, dramatization. They take a lot of creative license with the facts. When you make a movie based on a real life incident, we've heard this many times over the years about different things. So talk to us a little bit about the documentary that's coming out, Joel Berlinger's documentary. He's done a number of series for Netflix about tapes that have these killers, serial killers on them. So talk to us about your role in the documentary.
Sure. You know, in the 31 years since the Dahmer case was discovered, I've done lots and lots of interviews about the case. And it's refreshing when someone who is actually making the documentary or someone who's doing the interview really wants to make sure that they get the facts right. And from the beginning, Joe Berlinger and his producers were absolutely committed to the idea that they wanted to stick to the facts. And I shared an awful lot of my research with them. I shared material that I was using for the new version of my book that was released in October. All of those things were part of the are part of the things I consider before I talk to people. And the idea that he wanted to stay true to the facts was important. Also, the fact that this was an opportunity, and I always take the opportunity when I can to clarify at least my position, just to give people another opinion on what happened when the two police officers returned Hunter Simpson's phone to Jeffrey Dahmer. That's something that has been portrayed and discussed, has been misreported, been misrepresented, and speculated. So I'm always grateful to talk about that piece of it. The documentary itself is exciting. I am glad to be part of that. I was interviewed for it. I can only speak to my part of it, which was to help with the research and to do it one of the on-camera interviews. My understanding is they do have the tapes from Jeffrey Dahmer. You hear him confess to his crimes in his voice. And that is really the creepy part of this, because he's talking. I'm using.
Did you ever kill people in front of their kids?
Yeah. I killed Osama bin Laden in front of his son. And I thought, and this, we'll get into that mission, but I just killed Osama bin Laden, and I saw his 2-year-old kid, and as a father, I just killed the number one terrorist in the world, and I looked at him and I thought, this poor kid has nothing to do with this. And I actually picked him up. It's like,
And took them where?
put him over with it next to his mom on the bed. 2 years old, nothing to do with it. He didn't even know how to speak yet.
That'll fuck you up, probably.
Yep, it will.
More than him.
Well, I mean, it's stuff like that comes in waves. Like,
Did you sleep well?
Not really, no. I have great day. I'm a positive person, but I mean, you can have a minute. I can close my eyes and see Bin Laden's bedroom anytime I want. And I think about that dude that I talked about killing in his bedroom. I think about him every day.
See more inflection than he does when he's talking about these crimes. He's a very flat individual, very vanilla, very not a lot of personality. So that makes it eerie for me when I hear his voice. And we haven't heard a lot of his voice. He gave a statement in court, I believe court proceedings, and maybe just a couple of one-off interviews right after he went to prison are all we have of his voice. So this will be the first opportunity that a lot of people have to hear him in his voice.
And let's go back to what you just discussed, the returning of the phone by police to Jeffrey Dahmer. Talk to us about that and why you feel that's so important.
It's an important part of the case because it really was the point in that case. So I'm a young reporter covering a case of a serial killer. And I watched, once that information came out about the fact that police had contact with Jeffrey Dahmer just a few months before the discovery, that completely pivoted the case toward, oh my gosh, this never had to happen because of the police. And I've always felt that was an incorrect narrative, because one of the things that's tough is when we, in 2022, use all of our sensibilities and all of our information to look back and judge how something happened in 1991. And I think that is one of the things that makes this very challenging, is that people say that the police were homophobic and the police were racist. And when I look at what those officers had in front of them that evening, and I've done all the investigation, I've done all the interviews, I have looked at it over and over, and I have not seen an opportunity there where they would have had, where there was a red flag for them. I know that's hard for people to believe because they see these horrifying photos of what happened in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. But I was in the apartment the night of the discovery. I walked into the front door of that apartment, and there is nothing in that apartment except that it looks like maybe a single guy lives there, because it wasn't terribly orderly. But this was not some kind of a torture chamber that you would see right away.
Let me stop right here before I get real ignorant. Too many people complained about the smell lady. And if you have worked homicide, if you have worked investigations, if you have gone to the scene of a crime where there is a body and you've worked police work You know the smell. A random person may not know the smell, but they may say to themselves, wow, this is a rank smell I'm smelling, wherever they are. This is bullshit what you're saying. This is bullshit. Because the smell permeates. It's like anything. Something stays dead long enough. It's in the floorboards. It's in the wall. It's in the curtains. It's in the covers. It's in the pillows. It's in the mattress. It's in the lamp. It's just like smoking a cigarette. Over time, everything in the room smells like nicotine. You clean with bleach. I don't have to see you clean with it to know you used it. You fried chicken, same thing. I don't have to see it in a pot. I don't have to see it on a plate. But I know you fried chicken, steak, shrimp, fish. It's all the same. I don't have to see the dead body to know there's something wrong in this apartment. And that odors have permeated for however long it was that he was chopping up people and storing the dead bodies in the apartment. And in one documentary I watched last night on Tubi, if I'm to believe the information, the night they took the boy back to his captor, a dead body was lying in the room on the floor, and the police officer didn't even see the body because he just opened the door allegedly, peeped in, didn't see anything, which led me to believe he really didn't care. Because if he really cared about the safety of that young boy, you would have opened the door, cut the light on, and walked around the room, and in there you would have, ding, 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 seen the dead body lying on the side of the bed. But the smell alone should warrant bells going off. I don't care if you saw anything or not. I don't care how the apartment looked. And when they do close-up pictures of the apartment, you can see that there are blood stains in certain places in the apartment. You're just showing us little pictures. That's not the same as being in there. You're talking this crazy stuff. Oh, while I was in there, there was nothing noticeable. There are pictures that show that there are stains in certain places in the apartment. And naturally, he's probably tried to clean those stains up. But blood is blood. And everybody knows once it hits fabric, it turns a dark red. Come on with this BS. This is bullshit. That place stunk to high heaven. The neighbor across the hall, the black lady, said something. Other people in the building were complaining. And I'm also going to bring you testimony from the manager of the building from Court TV. You don't got to see nothing. Naturally, they didn't have a warrant to go through stuff, but had they gone through the apartment, pushed that door all the way open, turned the light on, they would have seen a dead person lying on the other side of the floor. If I'm to believe that this account is accurate, and who else could give you that account but Jeffrey Dahmer himself? Because he didn't have any reason to lie once he got caught. Because the evidence was in the apartment, in the drums, in boxes, heads in a refrigerator. So if he told you, hey, there was a body laying on the side of the bed that day, you all brought that guy back, he didn't have a reason to lie. So the officer didn't care. Just propped the door open, ooh, shut the door back. This lady's talking out the side of her neck. Because the smell alone should have warranted a full walkthrough to see where the smell was coming from. It was only when the black guy got away, they fully went in and opened up things to alert something was wrong. The officer went in the bedroom, saw pictures that didn't look like they were fake once he saw that the pictures emulated what room he was standing in to say, oh, he took these pictures in here. So this isn't made up stuff. This broad is dizzy.
When the two officers walked into Dahmer's apartment the night of the night in May, months before the discovery, what they saw was a fairly neat apartment. They saw Conrack synthesis phones closed, folded neatly at the corner of the couch. Jeffrey Dahmer had photographs of Conrack that were taken. They're very sexualized photographs. There was Conrack in his underwear, and naked photos of Conrack. And we also have to remember, and this is key, that the officers weren't looking at the picture of Conrack's synthesis phone that we have started, that we've seen over and over.
The two town residents are getting it again.
What is Tennessee?
Sorry about that. Brief intermission. This lady is full of shit. She's like everybody else. Everybody's always turning a blind eye. It's ridiculous. Hold on. I just get so disgusted with people that's always making excuses for other people. Just ridiculous. Know where this dizzy woman was talking. Hold on.
The idea that he wanted to stay true to the facts was important. In his schools. And let's go
Gotta try to find back where she was. Hold on, you guys.
That the police had contact with Jeffrey Dahmer just a few months before the discovery. That completely pivoted the case toward, oh my gosh, this never had to happen because of the police. And I've always felt that that was an incorrect narrative. Because one of the things that's tough is when we, in 2022, use all of our sensibilities and all of our information to look back and judge how something happened in 1991. And I think that is one of the things that makes this very challenging, is that people say that the police were homophobic, that the police were racist. And when I looked at what those officers had in front of them that evening, and I've done all the investigation, I've done all the interviews, I have looked at it over and over, and I have not seen an opportunity there where they would have had, where there was a red flag for them. I know that's hard for people to believe because they see these horrifying photos of what happened.
I'm going to pause there. I was reading some comments below this video. I believe this is the video. There's somebody that commented that said that the women that were outside in the street, the woman who had originally called, said he had blood coming from his rectum. I don't know what he had on that fateful night, but he would have been bleeding from his bottom. So whether he had on underwear, shorts, pants, it was seen. The fact that he had holes drilled in his head, when I watched the documentary last night, one of the documentaries I watched this on Tubi, eventually they showed blood coming down the back of his head, going down his neck. So you mean to tell me the police officers missed that? Now this is all in the street before they escort him, back to Dahmer's apartment. It doesn't matter if he can't talk. It doesn't matter if he can't speak English. It doesn't matter he's inebriated because he's doped up, drugged up, whatever the hell he was on, alcohol, drugs that Jeffrey has injected in him. He has holes in his head, and naturally, you want me to believe that somebody just drilled a drill in your skull and you wouldn't be bleeding from your head. I'll wait. So they get to the apartment, and this dizzy broad here wants to say, well, they didn't see nothing but pictures of him. Oh, okay. Esley says he was completely naked. Okay, so then that means somebody would have seen blood coming out his rectum. If he was bleeding, why is somebody going to make that up? I saw him bleeding from his rectum, if that's true. I don't really care, because my thing is this. Everybody's going to give their different version. I wasn't there. I don't really know what the hell happened, but I'm just going to use deduction. A naked man in the street, inebriated, allegedly had holes in his head. Dahmer had to have told that. This is how you knew he drilled holes in the head. It's from autopsies of the skulls and ding, 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 the horse's mouth. So this man is standing in the street naked. You want me to believe that when he had holes in his head, he didn't have blood coming out his head. Okay? And I always said, too, how did Jeffrey Dahmer lure him back to the apartment if he couldn't speak English? What did he say to him? Because he can't speak his foreign language, his native language. So what did he say to him to get him to come back? Because his rules has always been, I'll pay you to take pictures. I'm a photographer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, this guy allegedly couldn't speak English. No, I don't think that he couldn't speak English. He couldn't speak, period, because he was doped up. How about that? So you get him back to the apartment. You mean to tell me you don't smell nothing in the building? Since we want to play crazy that you didn't see no signs of anything wrong with the boy except for allegedly he was drunk. Jeffrey comes up, but they're giving testimony that the women are saying, oh, well, the guy really wasn't trying to go with him, and we were trying to make the police officers understand, hey, don't you see? He can't speak, he can't talk. He's really not trying to go with this guy. Is it possible that they did listen to him because he was a white man? We're going to believe this white man. Maybe it is a racial issue, partly racial. I don't know. Maybe it's the reason why nobody ever bothered Jeffrey Dahmer in the apartment building. He's a white guy living with these black people. We ain't going to worry about the smell. We ain't going to worry about nothing. He pays his rent on time. We ain't going to worry about it. But that's why I say it shouldn't matter about the race. We know race does play a part in certain situations. But the smell is pungent. So to me, it wouldn't matter if it was a Jew, Arab. Hey, let me go to the source where the smell is coming from. But nonetheless, you're in the apartment. Bell should have gone off. Because I'm not getting ready to sit here and believe Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment was spotless. In certain pictures, yeah, it looked like there's a little bit of this and a little bit that there. But I do believe there were stains in that place. There were stains on that wall. There's a picture of his bed without a headboard. And there's a big red stain where obviously something dead laid up against that damn wall. We know that he left bodies in his apartment for days. And he had to eventually break them down because he couldn't carry them out. That's the whole purpose of cutting them up. Not just to say, well, he likes eating and slumbering with dead folks. He knew he couldn't get them out of there. It's probably a combination of everything. Homophobic, white guy syndrome. We don't really give a fuck about what's going on. I'm ready to go eat a donut. I think it's a combination of every damn thing. Because see, in the end, nobody's going to admit, yeah, I don't like homosexuals. Yeah, no, I wasn't laughing at that little boy running in the street naked. Who's going to tell you that? Who's going to tell you that they were laughing at a naked kid running around that's gay? Nobody. But they got him on tape. And she needs to quit downplaying, well, if we go back to 1991, who did what, who missed the signs? A lot of people missed the signs because they didn't care. Jeffrey Dahmer should have been apprehended. Should have been apprehended when he was pulled over, carrying that guy cut up in the bags in the backseat of the car, and he was crying, saying his parents just got a divorce, and he was speeding. There were dead, what am I trying to say? Cut up pieces of a human in plastic bags on the backseat of his car. Okay? But cop let him go. But definitely with this apartment building, the manager should have went to the source, went into his apartment, whether he opened it or not, undid those locks with a maintenance worker, and went inside. And as they would have got closer and closer to either the freezer, the cabinets, they would have seen what they needed to see. Because anybody with sense would say, okay, the odor is getting more strong right here. Naturally, you're going to open it up. You would have opened the freezer, the refrigerator, the deep freezer. He had a nightstand that had a cabinet by his bed or whatever. Little file cabinet. Heads and stuff and penises were in there. Some man missed me with this BS. This is stupid.
What happened in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. But I was in the apartment the night of the discovery. I walked into the front door of that apartment, and there is nothing in that apartment except that it looks like maybe a single guy lives there because it wasn't terribly, orderly. But this was not some kind of a torture chamber that you would see right away. When the two officers walked into Dahmer's apartment the night of the night in May, months before the discovery, what they saw was a fairly neat apartment. They saw Conrack synthesis phones, clothes folded neatly at the corner of the couch. Jeffrey Dahmer had photographs of Conrack that were taken. They're very sexualized photographs of Conrack in his underwear, and naked photos of Conrack. And we also have to remember, and this is key, that the officers weren't looking at the picture of Conrack's synthesis phone that we have started with, that we've seen over and over.
Sorry about that, you guys. All these commercials, they're endless.
That we've seen.
Oh my God.
So we're like
this device is just asking. This is a sign when you talk about this so crazy nonsense. Hold on, you guys. I don't know what's going on. Trickery fingers here. Everything's jumping off. I don't know why this content doesn't want to play for some reason. And it keeps going back for some reason.
He was outside, if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong. He was outside naked. He didn't speak English. So,
Hello, Sheree.
there was this language barrier, and Dahmer said, "Oh, he's my boyfriend," or something to that effect. And that's kind of what happened, right?
Correct. And I interviewed not just the officers, but I also interviewed the ambulance crew that was there that night, that had put the blanket around Conorak when they got him to sit down. There was nothing that indicated that he was afraid. He was sitting down. Now, look, do we know why he was like that now? Of course we do. We know exactly. We know that this was he was already in the process of being murdered. He was anesthetized by Jeffrey Dahmer. He was drugged. And and there was a hole drilled in his head. I mean, these things had already happened. So, but this is not, and again, people say, so how did the people that were there not see that?
Exactly.
And I don't want to be so graphic about it. There's certainly opportunities for people to be able to read about why that is if they would like to. But I can tell you that Jeffrey Dahmer walks up. Conorak doesn't seem to want to run away. He can't communicate because he is drugged.
Now, this is where I have a problem with this female. You're sitting here trying to say, well, there is reasons for this and reasons for that. Well, why don't you explain it? What is the purpose of you being on this program if you can't explain it? Don't try to put it all off on Jeffrey was a smooth operator. Well, we figured that part out about him already. The point is, as you just said, what was done to him was already done to him before he ran out to the street. So we're going to say this again. The ambulance didn't see any holes in the boy's head. So what you want me to believe is that he had a full head of hair and nothing came out of his scalp to his neck that would alarm the ambulance officials to say, what's going on with your head? I'm not believing this. What does Jeffrey Dahmer have to do with what's visibly wrong with the patient? You got to remember, as you just said, he's doped up, so he can't talk. So maybe he couldn't react to say anything, obviously. So he can't give you what you want to hear, such as, hey, I'm scared of this guy. Hey, this guy's trying to hurt me. Hey, this guy just drilled holes in my head. He would have known that anyway because he would have been out probably. I just don't understand why nobody noticed the man had holes in his head. Nobody thought to check him naked. I just find it strange. And nobody found it strange that he was wandering around. Doesn't matter to me what Jeffrey Dahmer's reasonings were, what he gave the police. Oh, he's my boyfriend. He's drunk. He does this all the time. He runs out when he gets drunk, blah, blah, blah. This is allegedly what he told the police. He does this all the time. When he gets drunk, he runs out into the street. But what I'm saying is, no matter what Jeffrey told the police, how convincing he sounded, what does it have to do with how the victim looked? The victim can't tell you nothing because he's doped up. But you should have seen signs that something was wrong with him. My understanding is that the boy was also bruised up. You can hear it on the 911 call. The girl is saying it. Hey, this guy, he's laying down. He's bruised up, blah, blah, blah. So why is it you ain't saying nothing about that now while you're sitting there talking to law and crime? You're not saying nothing about his body was bruised up. So you want me to believe this black woman, she's lying about what she saw that night? She didn't see a bruised up kid. And they said everybody that saw the kid knew he was a kid. People passing by, people that knew of him, said if you saw him, you would know he was a kid and not a grown-up. But yet, you're going to stand here and let a grown-ass man sit up here and tell you, oh, this is my boyfriend. But he was a teenager. And it didn't dawn on you even then as a cop, there's still something wrong with this story. I don't give a damn what this guy is saying. This looks like a kid. And we're not getting ready to give this kid back to this grown-ass man. And I also remember him saying he didn't even know his fucking name. See, a real cop's going to ask real questions. What's your name, sir? What's going on here? What's your friend's name? What's your friend's birthday? Where does your friend live? How old is your friend? Because he looks awfully young to me. Oh my goodness, his head's bleeding. What happened here? Oh, his rectum is bleeding. You mean to tell me nobody saw this? The two cops didn't see this. The ambulance workers didn't see it. But every other Tom, Dick, and Harry, Susie, May, they saw it. Man, you people, this is what's wrong with the world right here is what we're talking about. Blatant stuff sitting in front of your eyeballs. And nobody wants to do anything. But everybody wants to talk about it after the fact and talk to the news and give a story and write a book. Let me tell you what I saw. Let me tell you what happened. That's what's the problem. It's after the fact. Everybody wants to spin a story to the news and the newspaper and TV and Oprah and Phil Donahue. Everybody want to come out and give their version. It's too late. Now the people are dead. They're dead and they're gone. Jeffrey Dahmer should have been stopped a long time ago. Even with his own damn grandmama. I'm not going to make excuses. You're old. Well, she's old and yeah, I know she smelled something and that's her house. She should have said, I got to call somebody out here. Should have called her damn son Lionel. Hey, get over here. There's something in my house smells dead. I need the house checked out. I've asked Jeffrey about it. He won't answer me. I need somebody to check my house. They would have been found the damn dead body down in the damn fruit cellar or whatever. This is bullshit. I'm getting pissed off because I get tired of people making excuses for stuff. I'm just sick of it.
Which Jeffrey Dahmer explains to the police. He was drunk and said, this is my boyfriend, Jim. He doesn't speak a lot of English, and then the cops said, look, they went the extra step. Can we come up to the apartment with you? We want to make sure everything is okay. So they did. They went up to that apartment. Conrad does not try to run away when he's being walked back up to that apartment. Probably because he's dying. He's dying. The story is awful. The story is awful.
Obviously not awful enough.
It fits into a narrative now that works for people that say the police were incompetent in some way. And and you and I were have talked about, previously that we know that law enforcement doesn't always get it right. Name a dozen cases, right? They don't always get it right. But in this case, did they get it wrong? Yeah, we know they did. But to who's the fault? Where's the fault there? Was there craven disregard for this child? Or did they go through all of the motions and the tragedy still occurred?
Hello, Skylar. Thank you. Hope you have a good weekend too,
Just briefly, tell us about your book.
Sure. The book is Monster, the true story of the Jeffrey Dahmer murders. Back in 1991, I wrote the first edition of it, which is essentially a first-person account of what it was like to cover the case, to be in the apartment that night, to talk with all of the different witnesses and cops involved in the case. I was contacted last year for the 30-year, I hate to say anniversary when we're talking about crime, but for the 30-year marking of the discovery. And I went back 30 years and looked for all the principles from the case. The prosecutor, the defense attorney, talked about what happened to Dahmer in prison where he was murdered. So it's not just here's what happened during the case, but it's also where are they now? What happened to all those principles of the case and what are they doing now? And how have all of us, including me, lived with the memories of that case?
Well, Ann E. Schwartz, we are looking forward to watching the documentary on Netflix and taking a look at your book as well. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate the time, Angela. Thank you so much. And great podcast. I love to listen to you guys. Thank you.
And that's it for this edition of...
Well, I won't be reading your book because let you tell it. Nobody should be blaming the police. Well, I blame a lot of people. How about that? I blame Lionel, his mother. When they realized their son was an alcoholic, they should have got their son treatment. Now, that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have went on and done what he done. But the point is, when you saw signs that something was wrong with your child, you should have got him help. Because see, that's the whole point of this story. Nobody knows what Jeffrey Dahmer could have become besides this monster had he gotten some help, had somebody noticed the signs that something was wrong with him. Somebody getting drunk in high school is a good sign that there's something wrong with them. Not just the sadism, because naturally he's not telling people what he had, his thoughts in his head, but he had some issues. And he had issues which led him to drink. So that's a problem there. Going back to that grandmother's house and killing that first boy, the house smelling. It's a very small house. Standard 2-level house. Or possibly 3-level with a basement. There's no reason somebody shouldn't have went in that house and found a corpse. The corpse would have never made it to be chopped up and discarded had somebody put their foot down and said, I'm not staying in this house another moment with this smell. I want to know what is this smell. She should have called an exterminator, plumber, somebody, and they would have said, you got a dead body down here. That's why your house stinks. That's the end of the story. How about that? There would have been no 17 men. And the fact that he went 9 years without killing when he went in the military should tell you something about Jeffrey Dahmer. Then that means he had self-control. Because at any time, he could have killed while in the military. You know damn well he wasn't on the base all those 9 years. Wasn't in the barracks the 9 years. He went out in the world and walked and slumbered and shopped, went to bars. He did allegedly normal things. So he had ample enough time to kill again, but he didn't. So that shows you he has self-control. Is he mentally ill? Is he sane? That is the question many people have asked pertaining to his acts. Now, one doctor will say, well, the act of cutting the bodies up, eating the people is insanity. But the way he lured his victim shows willful intent. And he continued to do it, so that would lead a person to believe he knew what he was doing, he was saying. It's just like any crime where you repetitively do it, you know what you're doing. You're luring them, you're offering them money, you're picking certain kinds of guys. So that's something in the story that's up for interpretation as well. Did he only choose gay men? Well, they said in this one documentary last night that he said he chose certain guys that he knew appeared to be gay. But then 1 minute, Jeffrey Dahmer says, well, not all the men were gay that I chose. So which is it? They were gay or they weren't gay? The black guy who got away, Mr. Edwards, says he's not a homosexual. But I beg to differ. I do believe you are gay. And I believe you were gay then. That was the reason why Jeffrey Dahmer chose you. You all say you was in a regular bar, you and some guy friends just chilling, having a good time. I don't know if that was a gay bar or not. But I believe Jeffrey Dahmer was meticulous in his choosing of his victims. And I believe most of those men were gay. Because when they started putting up flyers, what I watched in a documentary last night and another documentary, there was talk about gay men missing from the community, and it also made it into a news article. I'll wait. So see, this is what I tell you about fact and fiction. You don't really know what's the truth and what's not the truth, because we got differences about him being drunk in high school, the father acting like he didn't know, saying he didn't come home drunk. But then we got commentary that he sent the boy off to live with the grandmother because he got tired of him being drunk. So Lionel was a liar. Then we got Jeffrey jumping the fence of all the men weren't gay to, oh, well, I tried to choose men who looked gay. So which is it? They were gay or they weren't gay? Were all the victims homosexuals? The first one I don't believe was gay, just a regular guy hitchhiking. Because later they said that guy had a girlfriend. Jeffrey didn't care. He didn't want to be alone. So how do you go from being lonely to a serial killer? And like they said, why couldn't he try to date and mate like normal people? He didn't give himself a chance to try to meet and greet anybody because the compulsive sickness he had wouldn't allow him to further try to date. One of the victims, that guy stayed for a whole day or two. As soon as the guy told him he had to leave, then Jeffrey's old ways said, well, can't let him go. Got to do this to him. Instead of him saying, he's a nice guy, I'm going to get his telephone number. We'll reconnect. But he didn't have that mindset. Because if you kill a person off the jimmy, first round, because they say they got to go, and you don't even know this person, that shows you were sick all along. And that's what happened with his first victim. Just a random stranger, went back to the house for beers. The guy said he's got to go. And now you're clubbing this guy over the head with a damn dumbbell. This boy took the reasoning of, I don't want to be alone, to a whole new level of, I got to kill you. Who does that? Who does that? Let's see what this manager has to say.
For our testimony, you are going to stand up in truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you.
And sir, would you tell us your name and spell your last name for us?
My name is Sopa Princewell. Last name Princewell, Princewell. Sopa is S-O-P-A.
Just pull the mic a little closer to you. Thanks. How are you employed?
Pardon me?
How were you employed?
I was employed to be the resident manager of the building in which Jeffrey used to live.
Okay. Is that located at 924 North 25th Street?
Positive.
Yes. And is that in the city and county of Milwaukee?
That's correct.
Okay. And during the course of that employment, did you regularly come in contact with the person you've mentioned, Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes, I can recollect a few occasions when I had come in contact with him.
Okay. And is he seated in the courtroom now?
I stipulate his identification.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Princewell, you came here from Nigeria in the 70s, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you hold a bachelor's degree in business administration from University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee?
That's right.
And the way you know Jeff Dahmer is he lived in the apartment building that you were the manager of, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, was Mr. Dahmer committed to a lease in this building?
Yes, I remember he was in the building before I got employed there. And at the end of his first year, he renewed his lease with me.
Okay. And does that lease last for a year?
Yes, the lease runs for 1 year.
Okay. And it's renewable on May of each year?
Yes.
Okay. When you first started your job, when did you first start working in the Oxford Apartments?
I remember I was hired to be manager of the building in July 10 of 1990.
Okay. And do you recall your first contact with Mr. Dahmer after you were hired to be manager of the building?
Yes, I believe the first contact I had with him was sometime in July, towards the end of the July.
In 1990?
In 1990, when he asked me to put a lock on his mailbox.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember anything else about that contact?
I believe he was very grateful that I put a lock for him.
Did you have any contact with him in August of that year?
Yes, in August of 1990, we had complaints from residents about the smell that's going through the building.
Did you talk to Mr. Dahmer about that?
Yes, I did. I called him to my office and discussed with him. And he told me that he was sorry that it happened, but his freezer broke and he had about $150 worth of meat getting spoiled.
When you talked with him, did he appear nervous or uncomfortable?
Well, while we were speaking, he did not appear abnormal. He was quite normal.
Did you then go up to his apartment to look in that freezer?
Yes, I decided to verify that it was the freezer.
And did you go up to his apartment then?
That's right.
What apartment number was that?
It's the apartment number 213.
And when you went into that apartment, did you notice a bad smell?
I didn't notice any bad smell when I got into the apartment, but because he said it was his deep freezer that broke, he opened it for me, and then I took a look into it.
And what did you see when you looked into it?
I saw normal grocery kind of meat on
like
top.
Chicken?
I believe it looked like steak.
And was it wrapped in a store wrapper?
That's right.
Did he explain why he hadn't cleaned out this freezer when the meat went bad?
Well, he complained about working too hard in the night and that he gets tired.
Did you offer to do anything at that point?
Yes, I was very concerned about the smell and I offered to help him clean it.
And did you do that?
No.
What happened?
Right.
Yeah, he told me not to worry about it. He will take care of it.
And did he take care of that?
I believe he did because the smell actually subsided after that.
In your building, does the management regularly bring an exterminator?
Are you all hearing this? It subsided. Well, how could it subside when you said when you walked in the apartment, you didn't notice the smell? So what are we saying here? Because this is 1990. Summer 1990 when they're holding this conversation. So how many people had he killed at the moment this man went up to the apartment and said he didn't notice a smell? And I find it interesting that Jeffrey Dahmer allegedly had what appeared to be store-bought meat in wrappings in the freezer. So one, let's go here. How much food was in the freezer? How tall was it? What was actually in that freezer? And could it possibly be, we already know he's lying, actual cut up people in the freezer underneath the store-bought meat to make it appear that it's regular food? Because who's actually getting ready to go through all of those frozen packagings? So I want you all to think about what I'm saying now. So where was the cut up people at that were in the freezer? What did he do with those? Took them out and dumped them? Or were they actually still in that freezer, frozen underneath regular looking food? You got to remember, he's let some people decay in the apartment. Naturally, that's what the smell is, but he's using this freezer as a ruse that it broke, blah, blah, blah. You can bet your bottom dollar there were actual cut up parts of a human in that freezer mixed in with regular food. I'm not going to play this entire content, but I wanted you all to get a gist of what this man had to say in his dealings with Jeffrey Dahmer, because we never heard what actually happened with a manager or owner of the building pertaining to the smell. And this man's a foreigner, and this is winded already, 6 minutes of 44 minutes. They're taking forever to talk. He's slow. The attorney's slow trying to talk to him. I just get irritated when I see bullshit. That's just who I am. And this is bullshit because this is a year before. So the smell was still going on a year later. So how could it have subsided when you already said when you walked in, you didn't even notice the smell? So how can something subside that you didn't even smell? You mean the people stopped complaining at a certain time after that? Because they listened to the version you gave about the freezer? So they just stopped complaining even though they still could smell something in the building. So you got to count how long he had been killing people in 1990 up until the day he was arrested. This is, Lord have mercy. I've never seen anything so crazy in all my life.
Exterminators or pest control?
Yes, we have regular spraying of apartments against pests.
Can you estimate how frequently you'll have pest control come in and spray the apartments in a given year?
Normally we call in the exterminator once in a month. And the building has 4 sections of about 12 apartments each. And he comes to spray one section every month. And then we rotate.
So would that be about 3 times a year it would hit each apartment?
Yeah, likely, very likely 3 times.
Did they ever go into Mr. Dahmer's apartment?
Let me go back and hear that again. Hold on.
The smell actually subsided after that.
In your building, does the management regularly bring in exterminators or pest control?
Yes, we have regular spraying of apartments against pests.
Can you estimate how frequently you'll have pest control come in and spray the apartments in a given year?
Normally we call in the exterminator once in a month. And the building has 4 sections of about 12 apartments each. And he comes to spray one section every month. And then we rotate.
So would that be about 3 times a year it would hit each apartment?
Yeah, likely, very likely 3 times.
Did they ever go into Mr. Dahmer's apartment?
No.
Why not?
Well, normally when it's time for the pest control guy to come in, I usually send a notice to every apartment that will be sprayed. And I remember once when I was in the section where apartment 213 was, Jeff didn't accept the service. He told me that he will be using borax acid.
Did that seem like a reasonable explanation to you?
Well, it was in the point of the operating costs for the business. You know, there is a charge to every apartment that's sprayed, and so if he doesn't want it, then we are going to save some money. So I thought that was reasonable.
Was there ever any complaint about pests coming out of Mr. Dahmer's apartment, that he wasn't taking care of it?
No.
Okay. In your time as manager, did any other tenant reject bringing in pest control into their apartment?
Not that I can remember.
While you were a manager, you suggested earlier that there came a time when Jeff Dahmer was given the opportunity to renew his lease.
Yes.
About when did that take place?
Well, his lease was gonna run 1 year from the time he got into the apartment. And our company usually send out lease renewal papers 2 months ahead.
And-
So it should be around March.
And was the company at that time willing to renew his lease?
Yes.
And was Mr. Dahmer willing to renew his lease at that time?
Yes, I took the papers to him, and at the first time I went, I didn't get him, so I tried to locate him, and he came to the office and signed his renewal.
When people renew their lease with your company, does the management offer any services as a premium for renewing the lease?
Yes, the company offers one of two things. The resident will either choose to get his apartment repainted or the carpet cleaned.
And did you offer either of those services to Mr. Dahmer?
Normally, I did.
And what was his reply?
He didn't want his carpet cleaned or his apartment repainted.
Did he tell you why?
He didn't tell me why, but he said he usually likes to clean his carpet by himself.
Did you ever see him do that?
I remember seeing him once when he got the cleaning machine that he used.
Did any other tenant reject those services?
No, not that I can remember.
You already told us about confronting Mr. Dahmer about the odor problem in August of 1990. Did there come another time when you had to talk to Mr. Dahmer about this?
Yes, I remember.
When was that?
This was late May of 1991.
And how did you become that there was an odor problem? How did you find that out? How did you become aware of that?
There was a resident, a potential resident, who had wanted to rent an apartment directly above from him. And I had gone to set up the apartment against the 1st of June, but I couldn't stay to set it up because of the odor.
What did you do?
I'm going to stop right here. This shows blatant disregard for the smell in the building. Right here. You sit here and tell us, oh my God, this is so stupid. Exterminator going into 4 sections of the building to spray, which is about 3 times a year each apartment. Nobody's declining their apartment to be sprayed except for Jeffrey Dahmer only. He's making all these excuses about using boric acid, and you felt like, well, that'll save us money if we don't have to pay the exterminator to go in his apartment. Renewal of the lease. He had no problems with renewing his lease. You offered to paint and clean the carpet. He turned that down. And also, nobody else rejected pest control except for Jeffrey Dahmer. You didn't have a problem renewing his lease. Even though people were complaining, I'm sure, about the odor, naturally, you still wanted to renew his lease. And you offered painting and carpeting. He said no. He would clean his own apartment. You saw him one time with his own cleaning machine. Still, no red flags about the odor. We're now a year later. You're getting ready to go into a conversation of May 91, and still common sense would tell somebody there was still a stench in the building. Now you're getting ready to tell the prosecutor and the court that somebody wanted to rent an apartment above Jeffrey Dahmer, and you couldn't stay in there to show the apartment because of the stench. And you knew who lived underneath. You knew who lived beside that apartment on either side, across the hall, and below, because you're the property manager. And I also think it's strange that you have a fucking 4-year degree and you're a property manager. Because most managers only need at least 2 years of property rental on their resume. Yeah, I said that. And a high school diploma. So you wasted 4 years of a college education to be a property manager of a building in an urban neighborhood of Milwaukee. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I don't even think I have to play the rest of this audio because you're now a year later getting ready to say you couldn't even stand in an apartment and show it to a person above Jeffrey Dahmer because of the stench. So this is still almost a year later. This is bullshit. Yes, rent checks indeed.
You do when you had problems just staying in that apartment?
Well, I knew that the order was coming from his apartment because we had already known that before.
Okay,
so I had
knew
to start
this.
looking for him.
Was it similar to the odor you had noticed in August of 1990?
Yes, it was similar, but it's much stronger.
Did you ever find Mr. Dahmer at that time?
Yes, I did, and I asked him, excuse me, I asked him what's the problem again, because I told him the lady moving upstairs, is not gonna be able to do so because of the smell, and that he's messing up our business.
When you confronted him, was he angry with you?
No, he wasn't angry with me.
Did he appear nervous or upset or anxious when you confronted him?
No.
How did he explain the odor?
Well, he told me that it was his fish tank.
Oh, Lord.
He has claimed that 2 fishes had died in his fish tank, and he hadn't dumped them, and they started smelling.
Did you go into his apartment at that time?
Yes, I did.
And did he show anything to you to suggest that it had anything to do with his fish tank?
Well, I was curious what the smell was all about, and he said, it might be the plastic container that he had in his closet. It's about nearly 3 feet high, about 1.5 feet in diameter.
Did you go and
as a lid?
Okay. Did you go and look at that plastic container?
Yeah, I was right in the apartment when he said that it might be the plastic container. So I moved nearer to see, and I said, "Where is it?" He opened it, and I looked in, and a very strong chemical smell hit me. So I had to move quickly backward and told him that must go.
Was there anything in that container?
There was nothing in the container, but it has very strong chemical odor that hit me.
Did you ever see him throw out that container?
Well, when I told him that must go, I left the apartment, and about 5 to 10 minutes later, he called me and showed it to me in the dumpster.
And is that dumpster located outside of your apartment building?
Yes, the dumpster is located in the back of the building.
Did the smell go down then?
Not quite. The smell was still there, and I didn't know what it was, but I was worried that if he can, excuse me, if he can clean up his apartment, I was thinking that he's not a good resident.
Other than the smell in the apartment, did the apartment appear to be disorderly in any way?
No, I would think that his apartment was very neat compared to most others that I've ever got into.
This is the point where he should have said, I will not be renewing his lease. I will be giving him a 30-day notice to vacate the premises for the smell. Because he should have known something was wrong when Jeffrey said he went from the fish tank to a plastic container in the closet. So what does the container in the closet have to do with the fish tank? If the fish died in the fish tank and you dumped the fish in a garbage can and didn't get around to it, okay, then that's what you would have said. Okay, I threw it in the garbage and I haven't emptied the garbage yet. But what does the fish tank and the dead fish have to do with a container in your closet? Did you put the fish in the container in the closet? Well, you couldn't have, because he looked in there and didn't see anything, said it was a chemical odor. Odor still pungent. This is a whole year later, almost a year later. This man is at fault. He's a foreigner. He's a Nigerian. If you're curious to why he's talking slow, he's a foreigner. But he's still negligent. Well, I don't believe his apartment was clean either. Certain pictures you look at, it may appear clean to some and not clean to others. The point is, he had stains in different places in there. Why do you think he just admitted that he seen him with a cleaning machine? Because he was cleaning the carpet, because naturally cutting up people alive and dead is going to be messy. Even when they showed a picture of the bathroom, I posted it to my community board last night. That takes work, cleaning up a bathroom. You're cutting into a human. Something's going to spit out at some point. Residue's going to be left behind. I'm going to stop right here because I don't want to play any more of this. It's on my community board. If you'd like to finish the rest of this audio, because I'm going to go to story number 3 because I'm already over an hour. But the point I'm trying to make is about this Netflix and these different documentaries pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer. You're entitled to your opinion of what you think happened back then. Naturally, there's going to be a lot to the story that you don't know, because they only had a limited time of being interviewed, talking to Jeffrey Dahmer. He didn't live a long time for people to continue to talk to him. FBI, different reporters or different people interested in the story. The man died 2 years later in prison. He was murdered. And he went ahead and told the truth, because what options did he have? You found dead people and persons and body parts in his apartment, in the freezer, in the refrigerator, in a filing cabinet, in boxes. He had no choice but to tell what he did. But the point is, there was negligence. That's my point. 17 men, or less than 17, could have been saved had they not crossed the path of this man. You only have one, at least 2 killed outside of the apartment. One at the grandmother's house many years ago, before entering the military. One he killed in a hotel. The rest were killed in that apartment. So you're talking about at least 15 people could be alive, could have lived. See, that's what people are not focusing on. And this manager is not focusing on this. The owner of the building is not focusing on this. 15 people walked in that damn apartment and died in there and got cut up and put into freezer bags, plastic bags, and dumped in containers, a blue barrel, and also outside of that Milwaukee apartment, because there are bodies that he took to the grandmother's house, if I'm not mistaken, and dumped somewhere. So the point is, they walked in, but they didn't check out. And that's a lot to say for a small apartment, that many people walked in there breathing, living, young men, but got mutilated in there and discarded in barrels and cut up and put into a freezer refrigerator, boxes, and also consumed by the perpetrator. You can't make this stuff up. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Beganji, 129 Cash App, all stickers and chat to welcome during this live. Happy Saturday to everybody. If you want to hear this information, it's posted to my community board. Core TV is the source. This is Jeffrey Dahmer, Wisconsin versus Jeffrey Dahmer. This is apartment manager testifying. If you want to finish listening, it's got about 28 more minutes onto it. I stopped it there so I can get into my story number 3. The next story is pertaining to Debbie Collier. As most of you know, the FBI has decided to assist in this investigation of her homicide. I'm going to bring you that said information. Thank you so much for joining me. Federal agents have joined the investigation into Debbie Collier's death. The body of the 59-year-old missing Athens woman was found partially naked and burned in the woods of northern Habersham County on September 11th. Since then, the Habersham County Sheriff's Office has overseen the investigation. Now the Federal Bureau of Investigation is offering its resources to help. Atlanta FBI Bureau spokesperson Tony Thomas confirmed the FBI's involvement to Now Habersham, stating the FBI is assisting our law enforcement partners. He would not comment further and deferred all other questions to Habersham County Sheriff's Office. Habersham County Sheriff Joel Terrell says the FBI joined the investigation on Thursday. They reached out to us and asked if they could assist, and we said yes, absolutely, says Terrell. They were filled in on everything that we have so far, and that was just yesterday. Asked what potential federal crime in the Collier case the FBI is looking into, Sheriff Terrell says the federal agency is just another set of eyes looking at it. In an unusual move, the Habersham County Sheriff's Office chose not to turn over the Collier death investigation to the GBI at the outset. The local agency instead opted to work it in-house. Although the FBI is now involved, Terrell says his office's criminal investigations division is still overseeing the probe. He says the GBI and the Athens-Clarke County Police Department have been assisting with the investigation since the beginning. We're not alone in trying to solve it, Terrell says. The GBI crime lab is analyzing evidence in the case, and the state medical examiner's office conducted the autopsy. Officials have not revealed the exact cause of Collier's death, but Chief Deputy Merrill Kogod called Collier's death deliberate and personal. As most of you know, on the day that Collier disappeared, her daughter received a cryptic message from her mother's cell phone along with $23.85 Venmo payment. The message read, "They are not going to let me go. Love you. There's a key to the house in a blue flower pot by the door." While the message indicated a possible kidnapping, Habersham County investigators dismissed that, saying there is no evidence Collier was abducted. They also say there is no evidence that she killed herself. The case has raised a lot of questions and gained international attention, but so far, authorities have not had a lot of answers as to what happened. They have been able to narrow the time of Collier's death to a 22-hour window from 3:19 p.m. on Saturday, September 10th, when she was last known to be alive, to 12:44 p.m. on Sunday, September 11th, when she was found dead. They narrowed the time frame using school speed zone photos and store surveillance footage showing Collier in Habersham and Rabun counties. At 2:17 p.m. September 10th, a Tallulah Falls school speed zone camera captured a photo of Collier's rented black Chrysler Pacifica van driving northbound on US 441 Georgia 15 toward Clayton, Georgia. 38 minutes later, surveillance footage shows Collier entering the Family Dollar store in Clayton. She shopped for 14 minutes and did not appear worried or upset. Collier bought a red usable tote bag, 2-roll pack of paper towels, a blue tarp, rain poncho, and a reusable lighter. Collier left the Family Dollar at 3:09 p.m. on September 10th. She sat in her van in the parking lot for 10 minutes before driving southbound on one second. Jumped off there. US 441 Highway Georgia 15. During the time Collier was in the parking lot at 3:17, her daughter Amanda Bearden received a $2,385 payment over the Venmo app and a cryptic message. Once again, "They're not going to let me go. Love you. There's a key in the house and a blue flower pot by the door." Bearden told Athens Clarke County Police the message scared her and that it was unusual for her mother to leave without telling anyone. She and her stepfather, Steve Collier, alerted police and filed a missing persons report at 6:01 on the evening of September 10th. Investigators traced Collier to the Family Dollar store through evidence found at the crime scene. They say the items she bought were found near her body, about 2/10 of a mile into the woods off U.S. Highway 441, Georgia 15, just south of Victory Lane in Tallulah Falls. 3 weeks after her death, there were still pieces of charred paper, towels, and burned remnants of the blue tarp at the scene. There also were what appeared to be burned remnants of the red UGA football jersey Collier was wearing the last time she was seen alive. Investigators say they found Collier's cell phone at the scene. Sources close to the investigation tell Now Habersham the phone was damaged and inoperable. Very interesting. That's something we had not heard before. The phone was damaged and inoperable. So that means the killers destroyed Debbie Collier's phone. Very interesting information. Investigators filed subpoenas to obtain Collier's phone records. While the school zone cameras captured Collier's van heading north into Clayton, as of last week, investigators had still not located footage of her return home, adding even more intrigue to an already mysterious case. Much of the media attention surrounding Collier's death has been focused on the cryptic and chilling message that was sent to her daughter. Bearden and her stepfather were both at the scene the day Debbie Collier's body was found. Athens Clarke police notified them of the location. When Sirius XM radio tracked Collier's van to the area near where her body was found. At the scene, Steve Collier was calm and collected. Bearden grew irate when she learned the media was there. She tried to get authorities to remove Now Habersham from the scene, hurling repeated obscenities. That's interesting. She tried to get authorities to remove Now Habersham, and this must be the local newspaper. Why is that? Why did you not want the media there? That's their job, to report any type of crime. In the said article, you'll see a picture of the husband standing with a taupe color umbrella, the shovel umbrella, talking to law officials, and he's got rain on his shirt. Very interesting information. Father calm, but the daughter irate. Do the math. Since that angry encounter, numerous news outlets have focused on Bearden's alleged drug use and her boyfriend's alleged beatings. Andrew Tyler Gigerich, a former MMA fighter, has had at least 6 cases filed against him in Athens Clarke County State Court since June 2020. So this means this now gives verification of where these two have been living. It's our understanding that she just moved here on the 8th, she and he, to my understanding. But now this information says he has 6 cases filed against him in the Athens Clarke County Court in June of 2020. So that's 2 years ago. So that means that 2 years ago, these two were living in the Athens Clarke general area. So what led them to Maryland? How long did they live in Athens? How long were they together, living together, dating, which is however? And when did they go to Maryland? How long did they live in Maryland? And what is the real reason for them returning back here? This is interesting information because I was always wondering all these domestic situations, were they in Maryland or were they here? I now see that they were here. Very interesting information. Here we go. He's been arrested for misdemeanor drug traffic. Bingo card. Probation violations as well as misdemeanor battery against Bearden court records show. So what were those misdemeanor drug traffic? Is it for marijuana? Because if you only have a little bit of marijuana, naturally it'd be a misdemeanor. So it doesn't appear that it's felonious cocaine, crack, heroin, meth. Athens Clarke Police Department has released video and photos from investigations involving the couple, as many of you have seen on social media. On May 12, 2021, police took photos showing Bearden with a bruised shoulder and arms and damage to the walls and mirrors inside the residence. Police say she and Gagarich shared. There's also a photo of a handwritten note Bearden told police Gagarich wrote telling her, "If you or your family come near me again, I will hurt them. Did he write that? Or did she write it? Because now that we go forward into this investigation, and we know that this message was sent to her via a Venmo app and phone or device. Who's to say that she didn't write that note claiming to threaten her own family? Who's to say that Mr. Geigers didn't even write that note? Did that ever occur to anybody in the viewing audience? Because I always tell you to pay attention to the details of the story, and that past behavior is indicative of future behavior. Dr. Phil says that all the time. And this chick is known to be a pathological liar. Could we be talking about a note that was never written by Andrew? Stay woke, everybody. Once again, the note says, if you or your family ever come near me again, I will hurt them. Later, in another apparent domestic dispute reported on September 4th, 2021, police body camera footage shows Geigers accusing Bearden of stealing money from him to buy drugs. So here you have this body cam on the 4th of September, where he says she stole money. Then before that, months before, in May 12th, she's got a bruised shoulder, damage to walls and mirrors inside of the apartment or home where they live, and that infamous note threatening her family not to come around. Once again, on September 4th, 2021, police body camera footage shows Geigers accusing Bearden of stealing money from him to buy drugs. Habersham County investigators have interviewed those closest to Collier and have executed search warrants in Athens, Clark County. Still, for all of the media scrutiny focused on Bearden and Geigers, investigators have not identified any suspects or persons of interest in the Debbie Collier murder investigation. Collier's husband has an alibi for the afternoon of September 10th. Investigators say security camera footage shows he was parking cars in Athens until 4 p.m. in the Optimist Club for the Georgia-Samford football game. During the sheriff's office first press conference on the Collier case on September 30th, Colgas said the case remains complex in nature and has a lot of questions and unknowns. He cautioned the public against expecting a quick resolution. Now, investigators are hoping the additional resources provided by FBI can help shed more light on this case. They're also asking for the public's continued help. Anyone with information pertaining to Debbie Collier's case, please contact Habersham Sheriff's investigators Kel Garrison or George Kaysen at 706-839-0559 or 706-839-0560. Now Habersham.com is the source of this information. So we now get information that the day that the body was recovered, the daughter, Panda Bear, put on a scene not wanting the media to cover the crime scene. Why is that? Why would you not want the public to know what's going on with your mother? Number two, at the crime scene, the phone was damaged that belonged to Debbie Collier and inoperable. So that means someone busted up the phone. Why? Common sense should tell you they will be able to retrieve data from that phone because it was a legal working phone through a legal network, Dodo Bird. So why did you damage the phone? If you killed her, you watched her die, you knew she couldn't get up and use the damn phone. So what did you break it for? The phone's going to be tracked either way. But this is what happens when you are sloppy in your dealings and trying to cover up a murder. Number three, we now get information that these Dodo Birds were living here 2 years ago when they had all these different altercations with law enforcement. He has 6 infractions on his criminal record pertaining to misdemeanor drug trafficking and domestic assault, So let's chop it up. What led these people to continue to stay together? How long have they been together in a volatile situation? Why hasn't he left this woman who has stolen money from him? Did she write that note that was left behind saying, stay away from my family, blah, blah, blah? Because most of us believe she's the one that sent that money and note to herself, pretending to be her mother. So who's to say she didn't write that note 2 years ago, the threatening letter? Very interesting information. They're slowly giving us a little bit of this and that. FBI has now joined the ranks to this investigation. They offered their resources and Havisham kindly accepted. Many asked, why did GBI not get involved? Havisham said they had it together. Now, they will be the ones doing the forensics, autopsy. We will see what happens. I will drop the link for anybody that would like to give their commentary on the 3 subject matters at hand during this live, pertaining to the hype, pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer, and the versions of what is the truth and not the truth pertaining to those crimes he committed many moons ago. Why is this the hottest topic on social media? What is the truth of what happened and who said what and why? You will never know the full truth because, one, you don't know Jeffrey Dahmer, you don't know the victims, and you don't know the neighbors, you don't know the investigators. But I do believe many people failed the victims because there were too many opportunities that Jeffrey Dahmer could have been apprehended. I think that's proven. This woman who's giving her commentary with Law and Crime, an author and reporter, ex-reporter. There's one thing you don't seem to understand is interpretation. What you see, I don't have to see. You claim that going into his apartment that night, it seemed like a fairly decent apartment. It wasn't nasty looking. Well, some of us would beg to differ. There's no way in my right mind I'm going to believe that apartment was spick and span when he's been cutting up people in there for over a year. I don't believe it. Somewhere in that apartment lies the truth that he was cutting people up, storing people in there. Because, one, you can't clean up blood. Everybody knows this, especially off a carpet. Blood soaks all the way to the bottom to the padding. Same thing with urine. So what's on top ain't going to be what you see underneath. And that would be the most interesting part about this story. What did all the carpeting look like once pulled up? Since you're such a smart ass and want to tell us what the apartment looked like when you went there. That place is not clean because toxins are released from the body after death, smarty. So in no means was the apartment clean. And anytime you live in a place that's old and old cabinets, old walls, it's never clean. Doesn't matter if you walk through and it looks like somebody swept or mopped and there's not stuff all over the place and clutter. It doesn't mean that the apartment is actually clean or the house is actually clean. It's only clean if somebody has actually went and scrubbed a wall from top to bottom to the baseboards. Are you all following me? Kind of like going in a place where somebody smoked. If you just paint over it, that's not cleaning it. Still smoke residue in the apartment. Still nicotine tar on the walls. So now factor in dead people lying around and then cut up. You want me to think that apartment was clean? Okay. Whatever. The Merced Murders, quadruple murders in California. We have a second suspect, which is the brother of Jesus. He has been arrested. Where was he at the time of the murders? Was he around the corner, somewhere nearby? What is his role in aiding his brother in killing these people? What is the actual motive for killing these people? Jesus has a criminal record dating back to 2005. He did 8 years in prison. He was supposed to do an 11-year sentence, but he was paroled for a similar crime of kidnapping the owner, the wife, and the 2 adult children. He bound them and pushed them or made them jump into a swimming pool after robbing them. Now, fast forward 2022, he decides to kill this owner of a trucking company that he worked for. How long did he work for this man? What is the real issue? Was he having flashbacks to what he did years ago, wanting retribution for doing prison time. Is he schizophrenic, mentally ill? What's his malfunction? The family told that he confessed. Then he also attempted to take his own life. Officers went to apprehend him. They found him wherever. They did not say where they found him. Took him to a hospital. He was listed in critical condition, but is expected to survive. What is the motive for the crimes of the 3 adults and the child? He did not shoot the baby. He left her to die out into the elements, an 8-month-old child. Why did he kidnap these people and kill them? What was the real issue? Money, salary, hours, not being paid enough, not being paid the exact money, not being paid on time. This is also the same allegation with the previous trucking company he worked for or businessman he worked for years ago. This man is not wanting to show himself for security reasons, but now he's having to relive that all over again with hearing these crimes. And once he heard the name of the defendant, it brought back memories of his kidnapping and robbery with his former employee. It's my understanding that this man fired him. So why did he fire Jesus? What did Jesus do for him to fire him and lead this man to bust up into his home and hold him and his family hostage and rob them? Why only 8 years? It's only 2 years per person. And even with 11 years, it's not enough. Should he have gotten 25 to life or a life sentence? Now he's done it again and murdered people. He will most definitely get life now, but look who paid the piper for a short sentence damn near 20 years ago. Those are the 3 subjects. Merced quadruple killings, the hype of Jeffrey Dahmer and the Netflix syndrome, the battle of the documentaries, because that seems to be what's going on. Should these people have contacted the family that they were going to be doing a documentary and a movie? What is fact? What is fiction? Law and Crime is my source pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer. Court TV is my source pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer. And then Debbie Collier. FBI has decided to offer their services in her investigation. Habersham now Habersham is the source. It's very wicked stories. All true crime, sadly. All true crime. This is my Saturday Smackdown. Thank you all so much for joining me. God bless all of you. Hope you all have a safe and wonderful weekend. 1 second. Going to see if some of you want to give your commentary pertaining to these 3 interesting stories. Hello, sweet tea. How are you, dear? I got a new heating unit, but it doesn't seem to be putting out any heat. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel anything. I feel like cold air is in here. Maybe it's because it's not that cool outside. I don't know. We will see. You all know when I do this, I have the worst time. Please go to my community board for the said information pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer. Very sick story. So many different ways to spin a story about a madman and all the people that are involved. Sad. It got messed up. UQ. Wait 1 second. I think I put an extra letter. I don't know why every time I do this, I can't seem to get these letters right. Just disregard that first one. I got to put another one in. I don't know why. I think I'm up too close to this screen. If you have an opinion pertaining to these 3 stories, please hit the link. Give us your opinion pertaining to the Merced Murders, the motive. Should he have gotten more time in prison? But as we've seen with the case of Cleotha Abston Henderson and the death of Liza Fletcher, the kidnapping murder of her, wouldn't have mattered about any extra time. So long as he had gotten freedom, he would have done the same thing, just at a later date. Is this the same situation here? The man would have still committed these crimes because he has a mental defect, and he would have kidnapped and robbed somebody had he done more time in prison out there in California. I find it interesting that he confessed to the crime to his family and then tried to kill himself thereafter confessing. I thought that was strange. And the first time when I heard the story, I said, this is personal. I don't know why, but that was the feeling I got pertaining to this Jesus. I said, this is personal. This isn't random. I didn't think it was random for some weird reason. You know, when Queen gets those intuitions, I said, no, this isn't random. This guy knew these people. He knew something about them because it was only like day 1. So it was like you didn't get all the information because the people he killed were dead. So who was going to tell that they knew the man? But we later find out they did know him. He worked for them. Very odd story. But we do hear these type of situations of people who have involvements with one another on a personal level, work level, and something goes awry. There's a disagreement. There are words. There's animosity. Sometimes there's never even words. A person just comes back and goes ham. They don't even say anything. So is that what happened? There were no words, but he just came back, kidnapped them, killed them. What about the first case? Did he have words with that guy? Or did he just sulk and moan and started plotting? See, everybody's different. Every perpetrator is different. Hit the link if you want to give your opinion pertaining to Jeffrey Dahmer and the Netflix hype. What is truth? What is not the truth? Are these documentaries accurate? Is everybody portraying the story of the victims, the participants in the building, the cops, whomever? The one thing you have to always remember, the dead people can't speak. So what are you going to tell about their version? Because they can't tell you what actually happened in their apartment. They can't tell you the words spoken when they met Jeffrey Dahmer. They're dead. The only person that can tell you anything is the person who got away. And how many people could that be? Just curious. Very curious. Interesting information. And FBI is now aiding in the Debbie Collier murder investigation. Who killed Debbie Collier? Is it a family member, stranger? Police say no. No stranger, no random. No random crime. A lot of hype about the daughter. I'm also hearing gossip about this boyfriend being in social media chats via YouTube. This is like Don Wells all over again. Can't let the story be. Let the cops investigate. Got to interject. And usually that's a bad sign when people in the story decide they want to go to social media and play mind games. See, usually people are guilty. And that's my take on it. Because a decent human being who wants justice for their loved one wouldn't have that kind of time and wouldn't be so disrespectful in playing those kind of games. That's my interpretation, my perception, rather. If I lost my child, my husband, I'm not about to go to social media arguing with a buffoon about something they don't know a damn thing about. Why would I waste my time? You don't know me. You don't know my husband, my family member. So why would I argue with you about something you don't even know what the hell is going on? You're just giving your opinion of what you think happened, but you don't know what happened. So why would I waste my breath arguing with you? So whenever you see people who should be more concerned with seeking justice versus arguing on social media, Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, that should tell you something right there. Your priorities aren't right. So that would lead me to believe that you don't really care about your loved one. If you're willing to go to YouTube and argue with a stranger or a channel holder about their opinion and what's being said in the chat, how the hell is that of any relevance to getting justice for your loved one? It ain't. And we've seen that play out in the Summer Wells case. Instead of people staying out of the way and minding their business, the family members and random people, strangers, they made a mockery of it, going round and round, arguing with strangers about shit they don't even know what they're talking about. So now here we have a dodo bird who's not even the victim's son playing mind games in the chat, allegedly, because I don't know what's the truth or not. I'm just hearing this via mouths. It's a dangerous game to play because it shows you don't really care about the victim. This lady's dead. And we're waiting on the autopsy to see how she died and what other information the police department has pertaining to her murder. And the only thing you can sit up and do is allegedly get on YouTube and get in the chats pretending to be somebody and using fake usernames. So this shows to me guilt. You and that girl killed that lady. It's only a matter of time. Both of you are going to go down. That's what I think. Because as they say, you always follow the money and you also follow the behavior of the people involved. And if you don't have anything to hide, the one thing you're going to do is keep your mouth closed and stay out of the way and let the investigators do their job. You're not going to add fuel to the fire because indeed this was a whole human being. And no matter what we think of all the participants, the husband, the daughter, the boyfriend, her son, we weren't there. But what we do have is some very odd and suspicious behavior and text messaging via a Venmo app and money. And so far, there's no mention of the money either. Where's the money? Where the money is. I believe I've read that too. You don't even know where the money is. How about that? So what's the money transferred into a bank account? Because you know you can link your Cash App and these money apps to your bank account. Was the money linked to a bank account belonging to Amanda Bearden or the boyfriend? Do they have a bank account linked together still? Because he would be a fool to have a bank account with her after he accused her of theft to buy drugs. What's the truth? Hit the link if you have an opinion pertaining to these three stories. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Michelle. How are you, dear? Never seen such disrespectful people in all my life. No regard for human life at all. There's a lot of nasty things you can do, but murder, just murdering people for no reason, it's insane. And every day there's a story about somebody being brutally murdered. It's sickening. Something's got to come to an end because this world is just out of control with all these true crimes. It's just horrible. Since nobody wants to hit the link, I'm going to finish out this live pertaining to the information of Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm going to give you a few updates. There's an Alabama college student missing. She went on an Atlanta trip from Alabama. She's missing. This was uploaded to 11 Alive 23 hours ago. There's also some mess going on with Herschel Walker. There's a fallout over abortion allegations against Herschel Walker. I'd like to talk about that subject because can it be that a person is pro-life, but they paid their girlfriend to abort a baby years ago? As they said, you are entitled to change your mind about a subject matter. Maybe one day you're atheist, the next day you believe in God. One day you believe in capital murder, the next day you don't. Are we entitled to change our minds? Does he owe us an explanation if indeed he paid a girlfriend for an abortion years ago, but he is pro-life? You will hear his son going on and on about his father lying. It's a very dicey situation. The son seems rather feminine, and he's going on and on and on, fussing and cussing. Should his son be even talking publicly about this? Should he just stay out of it and let his father handle it himself? You be the judge.
Bluetooth connected.
I'm going to go ahead and finish out this Jeffrey Dahmer commentary via the department manager. All this information is posted to my community board. There's also a picture of the alleged bathroom of apartment 213 posted to my community board as well. Thank you for joining me. Court TV is the source of this information.
His apartment was very neat compared to most others.
His apartment was very neat, he says.
Did there come a third time when you confronted Mr. Dahmer about the smell coming from his apartment?
Yes, I remember around the second week of July, 1991.
And what did you tell him?
At that time, I told him that if he cannot clean up, then I would think he has to go, because that's the last time I want to tolerate the smell.
Did he get angry with you?
No, he wasn't.
Did he seem anxious or nervous or upset in any way?
No.
Did he explain what caused the odor on that day?
Well, he didn't explain anything at that point, but he kept promising that he would take care of it.
When he was making these promises, was he being pleasant with you?
Yes.
Did you at any time call your management office regarding Mr. Dahmer's tenancy at 924 North 25th Street?
Yes, I remember this was after my third encounter with him. I had called because I warned him that that was the last time I was going to tolerate the smell. I did call the main office to put that in writing to him.
At some point, did Mr. Dahmer talk with you about the security system he was planning on installing in his apartment?
Yes, I remember. That was after the first confrontation. I remember this should be around either September or October of 1990. He had called me up and asked me whether he needed the permission of the company to put a security system.
And did he need that permission?
I told him he didn't need a permission to do that.
As part of that discussion, did he request to put extra locks on his hallway door?
He didn't put any lock on his hallway door, but I remember he has signs of alarm system on the door.
Does your management company permit tenants to put extra locks on their outside doors, the ones facing the hallway?
Some of them did, but I can remember there was none on his outside door.
Let me go back to that. Let me hear that
At
again.
some point, you had a discussion with Mr. Dahmer.
Either September or October of 1990. He had called me up and asked me whether he needed the permission of the company to put a security system.
And did he need that permission?
I told him he didn't need the permission to do that.
As part of that discussion, did he request to put extra locks on his hallway door?
He didn't put any lock on his hallway door, but I remember he has signs of alarm system on the door.
Does your management?
So here is where I'm starting to wonder what is the truth or not. It has been alleged in a documentary that he had 6 locks on the door. So would that be 6 locks on the outside or the inside? This man is saying he requested a security system, needing permission to install a security system, and that he didn't see any locks on the door outside. So what is the truth? Did Jeffrey Dahmer put any locks on the outside of his door before he was apprehended? This is strange.
Management company permit tenants to put extra locks on their outside doors, the ones facing the hallway?
Some of them did, but I can remember there was none on his outside door.
So what is he saying? That other people have put locks on their outside doors, but Jeffrey Dahmer didn't? Is that the truth? Or did he care to go up and look to see that he put a lock or more on the outside door? This is a baffling story.
At some point, you had a discussion with Mr. Dahmer in a McDonald's restaurant located near your apartment building. Is that correct?
That's right.
When did that take place?
I remember this would be around the first week of July.
1991?
1991, right.
What did you and Mr. Dahmer talk about there?
Well, I had wanted to talk to him to know if he could be a business partner of mine.
For what?
And do you recall what that conversation was about? What sort of business were you in? Where are you?
Well, I'm a real estate broker and I sometimes rehabilitate properties. At the time, I had one on hand, so I was looking for somebody who might be able to be a partner.
And you thought that Jeffrey Dahmer would be an appropriate partner for you at that time?
Well, I figured that I could talk to him to see whether he would be one.
And did you?
I'm going to stop right there. 21 minutes into this commentary. What in the fuck would possess you to want to pick Jeffrey Dahmer as a business associate? For what reason? People were endlessly complaining about this man and an odor. And you've been to the apartment to see that something was amiss in there on round 2. In a container that was in a closet you looked in and told him to throw it out. So I'm going to ask, what were you thinking to ask this man? Is it because he was a white man? And what? You felt like what? He was being frugal with his money. He was saving his money by living in an African-American neighborhood, in an apartment building. And you felt like what? He had access to money. What the fuck were you thinking? This man's apartment smelled like death. You allowed it. You went along with it. You continued to let those people complain. You stood in the apartment above him with a new resident to be and couldn't stand in there to even show her the apartment, but yet you would think 2 months later ask this fucker to be a partner in a business with you. That's what you're telling the court. That's what you are telling the court. Oh yeah, I'd have been in his house, nasty, it smelled, it did. I played dumb, act like it didn't. Went in there round 2, yeah, it stunk. Then again, tried to show somebody the apartment above him and couldn't show her the apartment because it smelled so bad and I ran out of that. But then after that, months later, I'll go to the same person and say, hey, you want to be my partner? I'm done. I ain't believing this. Now, did anybody put this in a documentary? Because I didn't hear any of this in the one I watched last night, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Killer Cannibal, that's running on Tubi. I didn't hear this in there. And the one I tried to finish watching last night, it's already been out of the menu. But so far, I haven't heard anything about this manager wanting to be a business partner with him. Since you all are interviewing outsiders who lived in the building and giving their commentary in this new documentary, did any of you talk to this manager and ask him what the hell he was thinking about wanting to be his damn partner? I'll wait. Dear God, help me. Please excuse my language. This is ridiculous.
Did you ever decide to go into business with Mr. Dahmer?
No, I didn't. Because we were not talking about the partnership. I was explaining to him my experience with the property.
But did you ever get to the point where you actually were discussing going into business together or not?
No.
Okay. How many times would you say you were in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment during the course of your managing the property at 924 North 25th Street?
Yeah, I have been in his apartment at least 3 times.
In your experience, was that apartment generally kept in good order?
Yes, it was a pretty clean apartment.
Compared to other apartments you've been in at that same address, how did Mr. Dahmer's apartment rate?
But it's probably the neatest apartment I've seen.
Did anything about it strike you as odd or unusual, other than the things that caused the odor?
No.
In all the times you spoke with him, did you ever believe he was having hallucinations?
No, I quite understand him.
Did you ever think he was hearing voices?
No.
Were you able to carry on a regular conversation with him?
Yes, I did.
Did he ever strike you as incoherent?
No.
Did he ever strike you as irrational?
No.
Did you ever think that he was out of touch with reality in any way?
No.
Based on your observations of his manner, demeanor, actions, and conversations you had with him, what impression did he leave on your mind?
I thought he was a nice guy at the time.
In fact, you were willing to ask him to be your business partner, is that correct?
That's right.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Principal, there's a lot of things, as far as dates are concerned, the times that you were in the apartment. I'd like to go through those with you if I could, starting with August of 90. You indicated that that time, that was the first time that you were in his apartment? Or the first time that you smelled anything?
It was the first time that residents complained about the smell.
Okay, you had just started there in, was it correct, of July of 90?
That's right.
So you had been there approximately 1 month when this first began, as far as somebody complaining about an odor.
Pardon me?
Okay, you started in July
Yes.
1990, and the first time you heard any complaints was in August of 1990.
Right.
Okay. I understand that he was in May of 1990. Is that when he had signed his lease that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of
Okay, that's fine.
when he got in.
Okay. So now this first time in May of 1990 that he's indicated that there was a complaint, had you gone to his apartment?
Yes, after talking to him.
Just wait, one at a time. I believe the testimony was August of 1990. Counsel was spoken said May of 1990.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, August of 1990, first complaint. I'm getting confused. In August of 1990, had you gone to his apartment when there was a problem with some odor?
Yes, after the complaint about the smell and somebody actually identified his apartment as the source of the smell. So I called and talked to him in the office and went with him to his apartment.
Okay. Do you recall giving a statement to some police officers relative to this? Sometime back after this all broke, you spoke with some police officers in 91 relative to this incident, isn't that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Back then, it indicated that at that time, there was, they went into room 205 instead of 213 because they thought perhaps somebody had died in there. Is that not correct?
Yes, that was an incident that is connected to we are trying to trace the source of the smell.
Okay, so after you went into 205 and found out there was nothing there, you eventually found out it was from 213, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, and how'd you go about doing that?
There was a resident that identified his apartment.
I'm sorry?
A resident identified his apartment as the source of the...
Oh, so the person who complained was the one who actually said that's the area that he smelled it coming from?
The person that, the resident who told me about it lives right across from him.
Okay. And what excuse did he give at that time?
He said his deep freezer broke and he had meat in it that's getting spoiled.
Okay. Was this the time that you had actually gone in and looked in the freezer?
That's right.
Okay. So you went into his apartment, you said, Jeff, we have a complaint here, there's a problem that there's a bad odor. Now, when you walked in, did you smell it?
When I walked in, I didn't smell anything in his apartment.
You did not?
No.
Okay. And
But he had opened the freezer for me to take a look.
okay.
Uh-huh.
And as you opened it, did a smell come out at that point?
I did smell it a little bit, but not as strong as it was outside.
So it was stronger outside of the apartment rather than inside?
Right.
And stronger, what, outside rather than in the freezer?
That's right.
Okay. When you looked in the freezer, you saw packages of meat, correct?
That's correct.
And these packages of meat were just packed up in plain old wrapping paper, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, the second time, first of all, let me just ask you one question. How much time did you actually spend in the apartment at that particular instance?
I normally don't stay any length of time. I just went there to verify the source of the smell. And so after you...
Hey, everybody, I stepped away briefly. Now, is he contradicting himself or is he lying? Because remember when he was first asked this question by one of the attorneys, he said the meat had normal wrapping, such as what comes from the grocery store. Now you're saying it was just wrapped up in paper. So which is it? This is why I asked, is it possible that regular meat from the grocery store was sitting on top of the other body parts wrapped in paper? But now he's contradicting what he already testified to. So which is it? You did see meat in the freezer that looks like it came from the grocery store, so you didn't pay no mind, because naturally you weren't going to dig your hand down in there because that wouldn't be right to go through the man's belongings. Now you're saying it smelled not so bad in the apartment, but worse outside. So now let's go on and ask that question. Why did it smell worse outside? Is it perhaps maybe he had been using some cleaning agents, knew that the man was coming? What? In the end, it doesn't matter who wants to try to sugarcoat what the fuck was in that freezer and in that apartment. Body parts were retrieved out of there. Body parts were in the deep freezer. Body parts were in the refrigerator, in the freezer, in boxes that were in the floor. Because if you look at pictures from the scene, there are lots of boxes. And I was even asking, what the hell's in those boxes? They were just laying around. Filing cabinet with penises in them and skulls. Stuff was in closets, on shelves. He just had stuff everywhere belonging to a human being. So it doesn't matter who comes in and try to fluff it up like, oh, well, the manager didn't smell it too bad inside. It don't matter. It's what you found when that guy got away that night. I'm over all this. I'm really done with all this crazy nonsense. The barrel. I don't know, A-Balance. I haven't the foggiest idea. Hit the link if you're able to talk. I know you said you were celebrating Thanksgiving, but this is just ridiculous to me because now it's like he's contradicting what he first testified to. Say what? She's 2 months and my ex left us here. Anything helps us. $ Lattimore. Okay, you're driving. That's fine. We'll go ahead and finish playing this information. Be safe. Happy Thanksgiving. See, this is why I kept trying to tell you all, you can't believe everything that's being said about anything. All you have is the version that a person spins. And until it can be verified, you don't know what to believe. Now he's conflicting himself, even in testimony, about what was actually seen in the freezer the first time versus the odor. Then we've got documentaries saying the man had locks on the outside of the door. Now he's saying he didn't see any locks on the outside of Jeffrey's door. Okay, A-Balance, that's fine. Oh, I'm done with this. This is making my head spin.
He opened the freezer to me, and I saw the meat on the top of it. I had to leave. It's just a brief moment of time.
So 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. What, if anything, did you tell him to do about it? I mean, if they didn't have any smell there at all, that you thought there was a problem, did you just leave figuring that, well, the freezer is fixed now, so the problem's taken care of?
Well, after the first encounter, we didn't smell anything till the next year.
Okay. Now, the second time I have here was indicated that it was a few months later that there was a person found in apartment 308 that had been strangled. Now, was there a complaint at that time that there was any odor in the apartment building?
Well, the person was strangled sometime in May of probably the first part of May 1991.
Okay, so you were saying that your statement here would be incorrect, that it was just a few months after August of 90 that this in fact happened in apartment 308. I'm just trying to get a track.
I don't understand you. Please, could you repeat that?
You don't understand anything, do you? But you know how to ask Jeffrey Dahmer, a fucking killer, to be your fucking business partner. Hey, who's to say Jeffrey Dahmer didn't strangle that damn neighbor? I'm just saying. Continue.
Sure.
Pedro.
Certainly. Okay, I'm not trying to confuse you or anything. I'm just trying to get down these times correctly, okay? So there's an indication here that you had stated that the second time was a few months after the first incidents, and that was, the first one was August. So they're saying a few months, so let's say maybe August, September, October, November, around that area of 1990, that there was a person who was strangled up in 308. Now, because of the fact that you had stated this in here, when you gave your statement, was it because of an odor, or were you just making a comment to the fact that there was somebody who was strangled in 308? Do you recall that at all?
The case of 308 is not a part of this case.
Okay, okay. So that wasn't as a result of any orders?
Orders don't strangle people.
Okay. The next time that you indicated was
Lord have mercy.
around May 27th or so of 1991. And this is the incident right on or about the time of the Conrad Simpson phone incident. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what it is, but I remember that is a period of time when I started to smell the odor again.
Okay. Now, was it the same kind of smell that you smelled the first time?
Yes,
Okay. Was it heavier this time?
a little stronger.
Okay. Now, at that point in time, what did you do then? You went to check the apartment again, is that correct?
Well, I had to look for him.
Okay.
I had to look for Jeffrey and asked him what's wrong again this time. And he said his fish tank might be smelling because he had 2 fishes died. And I had asked him why he doesn't like to dump it if the fish is dead. You know, the next thing it will start to smell. Why would they have to keep them, you know?
How many tenants complained about the smell at that time?
Almost every tenant.
Every tenant in the entire building?
Almost.
Okay.
Almost whole year. And you kept making excuses.
Did you go to his apartment on that occasion?
Yes, I did.
And you went in?
I went inside and I was trying to locate what is really smelling.
Yeah.
Okay, did you see the fish tank?
I didn't see it, but he suggested that he had used the container, the plastic containers, to empty the fish tank, and that may be what's smelling.
Okay.
So I went closer to him, and he opened up the lid of the container.
Okay, so this container was where? Was it in his closet or was
Hey,
it somewhere
Balance,
else?
you're horrible.
It was in his closet.
Okay, so he had brought you in his closet. Just there wasn't anything else unusual in that closet that you saw?
Well, I don't know because there are 2 containers. He only opened one to me.
Okay, and that one that you opened,
I'm dead.
you indicated that at one point in time that he lifted the lid off the barrel. The pungent odor brought tears to his eyes and caused him to step back and smell. The smell was so strong. Do you recall saying that?
Yes, I have to tell him that must go.
So it smelled that bad that it brought tears to your eyes?
Yeah, it was very strong. I had to.
Did you say to him at the time, my God, how could you live in such a place and it
Exactly.
smells so bad?
No, I didn't say nothing
Exactly.
like that to him.
You didn't ask
Exactly.
any questions about it whatsoever.
No, but I asked him that he should get rid of that container.
Did you find it unusual though that you'd have something of such a nature?
Well, it was a little unusual, but I couldn't connect it to anything at the time.
Okay. How much time did you spend in the apartment at that incident?
Very briefly, about 5 to 8 minutes.
Okay. And now the last time that you had a problem relative to the smell was it in June or July of 91?
It wasn't. The smell continued from the end of May through July.
Okay. Did the smell increase? Was there a progression of the odor being worse and worse?
Well, it just remained fairly the same.
Pardon?
It remained fairly the same.
So is he talking about from one year to the next, 90 to 91, or June 91, to July 91? What is he saying? Smell got worse within a couple of months or a year? I don't think he really cared. How about that?
May and July.
Right.
But you had noted a distinct increase between the time in August of 90 from the time that all of a sudden you smelled it on a consistent basis in May of 91. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, in July 91, this is when you were attempting to rent the apartment 313 above it. Is that correct?
I rented the apartment 313 in June.
June. I didn't mean to confuse you. And that was when you yourself smelled it from the apartment 313?
That's right.
Were there any other complaints from any other tenants?
Of course, there are a lot of them complaining,
Okay.
but I already knew the source of the smell.
Okay, so was there a
Obviously you
constant
did.
complaint of the odor between May, June, and July?
Yes.
Did you hear this? I obviously knew the source of the smell. Well, you couldn't have known the source of the smell because this went on for a while. You did know the source because this lie started with a deep freezer. Remember that? Remember that's what he told you? And then next thing you know, they're still complaining. You go back up there to look for Jeffrey Dahmer. He comes to your office. You all are going cat and mouse games about the smell. Then you're back up there looking in there, going on and on about a stupid ass fish tank that ain't the source. Then he switches it to, I got a container in the closet. See, he was nervous then. That's why he went on and said something about that smell, just in case you start walking around playing I Spy. So he went from the fish tank to the container in the closet. I'd have been scared as hell to even go in that damn closet. I'm telling you that now. But you tiptoed over there, smelled it. Woo, you got to throw this out, Jeffrey. Now you're telling this woman, it was another container in there. Are you all listening to this? Because this is how bizarre and macabre this story is pertaining to these dead people and this man. That this man is standing in the apartment with the dead people in the containers and boxes and freezer, and he ain't thinking about opening nothing else up in there because naturally Jeffrey would have said, no, don't do that. And then he'd have to say, well, why you don't want me to touch that? And ding, 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 ding. That's when bells should have gone off in his damn head. What the hell is up in here? You should have known something was up when he mentioned the damn container in the closet and your stupid ass went over there and smelled it. Your mind should have said, wait a minute. Initially, he said it was the fish tank. So why am I going to the closet? Because he knew that the damn container stunk in there. And ain't no telling what was in the other container that you didn't open. Dude, you have got to be the dumbest motherfucker breathing. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that because, see, you are what is wrong with people right now, just letting shit slide. And then this stupid ass person got the nerve to sit up here in a courtroom and say he wanted Jeffrey Dahmer as a partner, business partner. Then he contradicts himself again on cross, I guess, to say, well, no, I didn't really want him. So what she's supposed to say was, what changed your mind? Why did you change your mind about having Jeffrey Dahmer as your business partner? What was it that you said to yourself in the first place? Hey, I want him as my business partner. Till now you're going back, double backing in the courtroom saying, well, no, we didn't work out no arrangement. See, you were backsliding in your testimony. And I'm wondering, did somebody say something about that during the court proceedings? Because you've backslided on the odors, and you've backslided about wanting Jeffrey Dahmer as your partner. It's obvious. Because you just subtly went on and said, no, I ain't want him as no partner. Because you're sitting there thinking about it while you're repeating it, how ludicrous it sounds to be asking somebody as a business partner that lives in a damn working class apartment building, and he's the source of the smell and stinking up the whole damn building. You're thinking about that while you're testifying. That these people think I'm a damn fool. Yes, he should have. And they already said you'll know the smell even if you've never smelled a dead body. And he should have known all those months you kept letting those people complain that something was wrong. Him wanting the security system in that apartment. If you hadn't had any cases of people kicking in doors, breaking in apartments, he was leading you along the whole time that something was amiss with him, but you refused to do what you needed to do because I believe possibly you used his race and just thought, oh, he's just a scared white guy. We'll just accommodate him. But it's principle. You should have been investigating that damn smell. The smell is more important than who's white, who's black. It stinks in there. You should have been trying to get to the source. Jeffrey Dahmer was telling you all along he was the source of something nefarious in that apartment when he didn't want you checking it with the exterminator. That's number one. Getting a cleaning machine when you all will offer to clean the damn apartments. Don't want the bug man coming in there. Wanting locks on the door. Then you say, no, he didn't want no locks. So where were the locks? Inside, outside. See, you don't even know what to believe now. Let me let you all finish this. Well, you said he's from Nigeria. He's probably has seen lots of death and has possibly smelt death over there. He knows what death smells like. He ignored it like everybody else.
Yes.
Okay. So this time, did you go into his apartment once again?
For a third time, I didn't go into his apartment. I just wanted him to know that he's not going to stay there if he doesn't get rid of this man.
How did you convey that to him? Did you go to his apartment or did you put a letter?
I saw him in the hallway and told him.
And he had indicated to you at that time that what? He was going to get rid of the smell?
Well, he kept promising to get rid of the smell, but I told him that was the last time I can tolerate it.
Okay.
And so I had to contact my office to put that in writing to him.
This is funny.
So, in any event, at that point in time, did you have a mindset that he was going to be evicted no matter what because of the odor?
That's what I had in mind.
Had you started these proceedings as far as through your office to have him evicted?
No, we haven't started proceedings.
But the decision pretty much had been made in your mind that
That's right.
he just didn't listen to you, did he?
Yeah, right.
Well, he did listen, but I guess he hadn't got any way to get around it.
Okay. How much time would you say from the moment that you met Mr. Dahmer to the last time that you had seen Mr. Dahmer that you had spent with him? In or out of the apartment? With him?
Well, I would say the longest time that I spent with him was when I was with him at the restaurant where he had a coffee.
Yeah.
And I had picked up breakfast to go.
Okay. In the entire time that you've known him, how much time would you say that you've spent with him in his apartment?
I haven't spent anything beyond 10 minutes in his apartment.
Okay. So 5-10 minutes the first time, about 5-8 minutes the second time, and the third time you never went into his apartment?
No.
When did he have the alarm system put in?
I'm not sure when, but it was after the first encounter in 1980. August of 1990.
Do you have any idea, was that yet in 1990 or was that not until 1991? Do you have any basis of recollection?
I would think it is in 1990.
Okay. You indicated before about the locks on the doors. Did he ask for additional locks on the doors on the outside? For the outside door?
It's not an outside door. We have passage locks for bedroom doors. And he had his own lock on the bedroom door instead of a passage lock.
Okay.
So he has locks on the inside of the bedroom door, outside of the bedroom door. You didn't think that was suspicious? Good God Almighty, I'm dead. Stupid.
Well, when you met with Mr. Dahmer at the restaurant, relative to this business. How long had you met with him there?
Stupid.
I went to the restaurant to pick up a breakfast, and I saw him. And I thought maybe he was gonna go home right away. He's my resident, and I thought we could walk together. That's why I stayed to wait for him.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
He wanted to stay and drink his
Maybe
coffee.
you're gay and you knew Jeffrey was gay. How about that?
It didn't take too long, so
This is bullshit.
wait for him so both of us can walk home.
Okay. Did you in fact walk home with him?
Well, I didn't because he decided that he was going downtown.
Okay. So just for the time that you were with him, how much time did you spend with him? Would you approximately?
It was nearly 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes?
Right.
During that time, we had a conversation relative to the business. Did you want him as a salesman or as an investor in your business?
I had wanted him to be as an investor.
An investor?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Now, Mr. Princewell, you've talked to a lot of police people.
I'm 2 hours and 36 minutes in. Court TV is the source of this information. Is there something that I'm missing in this testimony by this Nigerian property manager? Is it perhaps the property manager saw more in Jeffrey? Because you got to remember, Jeffrey knew what he was doing when he was going out to these bars, picking up men for felonious purposes. So can I deduct that perhaps this Nigerian man was also seeking Jeffrey for felonious reasons as well? I'm going to run it down kind of like this. You knew that he was a homosexual man, and you either thought he was gullible, had money, or you wanted him for the same purposes of what he was doing with those men, except you didn't have an intention of killing him, but you was looking for somebody to dupe. And it's not to be racial against African people, but we've seen what they've done with scheming and scamming people. Could it be that you was trying to find you a gopher, somebody that you could dupe to get money from? And there's no way I'm going to sit here and believe that you didn't sense that he was a gay man. Let's all stay woke here. You don't go around people at some point in life and not get a sense of who they are. And you would have seen Jeffrey in the flesh, unlike us as outsiders. So you would have seen his demeanor, the way he talked. You'd have also seen the pictures of naked men in there, because I do believe I saw a picture or so on the wall. Naked man. So why would a straight man have a picture of a naked man on his wall? I'll wait. People also talk and gossip. And we've learned that's what people do in apartment buildings. They talk about the neighbors, what they're doing, who's coming and going. You think people didn't also talk about different men coming in and out of there? Oh, they're just going in. That's his beer buddy. Okay. I'd like to know where this man is. As I brought you commentary from Law and Crime earlier, talking about Jeffrey Dahmer. I'd like to know where, yes, some of these neighbors are, and I'd like to definitely know where this guy is. Is he still alive? Where is he now? And I also like to know, is he a homosexual male? Yes, I'm going to go ahead and say that. And I also like to know what was his real reasons for approaching Jeffrey Dahmer as a business partner, but then he backtracked during his testimony, acting like he didn't want him for a partner. But nobody even asked him, well, why not? Why'd you change your mind? What led to you not choosing him as your partner? You didn't even ask him. Well, what the fuck is the point of all these questions? If you're not going to ask, well, sir, why'd you change your mind? Is it something about him? Is it the issues that you were having with him at the building Perhaps you thought he wouldn't be a good investor, because God forbid if you was wanting to let him be doing what you were supposed to be doing, which is a property manager, he'd be eating all the damn tenants. How about that? How about that? Imagine Jeffrey Dahmer as the fucking landlord. Yeah, okay. Let me wrap this up. My head's starting to hurt.
And people from the Attorney General's office and all kinds of folks about what's happened in this case. Is that correct?
Well, as far as I can recall.
And do you remember talking with Special Agents Kim Skorlinski and David Collins on August 14th, 1991?
That's right.
And on that date, do you remember telling them that the second time Jeff Dahmer would have talked to the police would have been a few months ago when someone was found strangled in apartment 308? That was on August. You would have said a few months ago.
That's right.
So when we're talking about a few months, you're talking about April or May of 1991, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's what you told these investigators on that day.
Right.
And so the few months dealt with his second time dealing with the police, not his second time dealing with you. Is that correct?
That's right.
When you met with Mr. Dahmer in the McDonald's restaurant, that was in July of 1991?
That's correct.
Do you remember if it was the first week, second week, third week?
I can't remember exactly when, but I remember it was during the period that we have got the problem of the stronger smell, and I had told him to try to clean up or it would be going.
Okay. And at that time, you wanted to talk to him a little bit about going into business with you, is that correct?
Well, of course, even though I had given him a warning, I didn't expect that it was a really bad situation that I cannot talk to him.
Mm-hmm. And at that time you thought,
hold on,
he might be a good person to talk to some of your other clients.
That's right.
No further questions.
Brother Cross?
Oh, Your Honor.
You may step down, sir. We'll take a recess at this point. Court's in recess.
I'm assuming there's a part 2 to that information. Court TV. Oh my God, my head hurts. I don't know what to think of this apartment manager. Something about him is off too. Basically, now you're saying, well, although I've talked to him about the odor, that wasn't going to keep me from trying to talk to him and obviously ask if he'd like to be an investor in my business. I assume that's where he was taking that comment. Hey, he's a nice guy. Yeah, he's got some stinky stuff going on in his apartment, but hey, I need an investor. And you've heard this 1,000 times in dealing with people. They know that something's off, but because they are possibly greedy or just oblivious, they go ahead and deal with the people any damn way. So it's no different than somebody going in the apartment as a neighbor and smelling the stench in the hallway. Going in the hallway seems like inside of the apartment, you're going to really say, damn, it smells horrible. This is worse than in here than outside. Oh yeah, in here, that's where the odor is coming from. Why would I still be standing in your apartment? I'm not getting ready to stay in there. I'm not getting ready to eat in there, dine in there. Because there's lots of times when we know better. Just like when it's cluttered, filled with clutter, it's probably best we don't eat in there. We see bugs crawling around, best you don't stay in there, eat in there, take food out of there, have a drink out of there. Just best you don't do it. But when you talk about a pungent smell such as death, and I can tell you, living in a high-rise building many years ago, I told you all the story before of a neighbor that passed away. Hey, he had been in an apartment, I think about, man, I want to say 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks he was in there. Anywho, naturally, it smelled. Whether it was a couple days to a couple weeks. Well, I was curious because I told you I was sitting outside on the benches when the two cleaning ladies came by with what looked like to be a broom and a clear plastic bag. And inside of that plastic bag was black. So I'm assuming he relieved himself after death. And I can tell you what was in that bag was not nice. And that was from feet away, them walking by. I thought, what in the hell is that? So I mosey on up the elevator and go up to the floor where he lived. I believe it was the 4th floor. Just let me just tell you this right here. I didn't smell anything coming off the elevator to my recollection. I didn't smell anything when I turned the corner, which is several feet away from the elevator. But when I stepped on that carpet to go down the hall, because he was kind of just a few doors down to the left, to my left. When I got near that door, there was a very odd smell emanating from the door. So listen to what I'm saying to you. I never went in the apartment. I didn't live on his floor. But when I got to the door of his apartment, it was obvious where the smell was coming from. So I'm going to say this as a person who only smelled it by going up on the damn floor. When you got up there and got to the damn door, you would have known somebody died in there. And let me tell you, it was a very strange smell. Not even a smell I can say that I've smelled before. But it was a rank smell, nonetheless. So if I could smell it through the door in the hallway, common sense should tell you, had I opened the door, ding, 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 I'd have smelled it inside of the damn apartment. And it was a very small apartment that he was in because the apartments had 1 bedrooms and efficiencies. So therefore, you know damn well that smell was illuminating in there, illuminating to either side of the wall, to the other apartments, to the right, to the left, and to the floor itself. So you're not going to make me believe a man who was cutting up people for damn near a year, months, however long it was that Jeffrey was, starting to kill these people, cutting up body parts, leaving them dead for a couple of days until he was able to chop them up and get rid of them. You want me to believe in that 1 year's time, that smell dissipated. It can't dissipate because he was continuously killing people. There might have been a few months that he stopped, because I watched a documentary last night that said there was a 5-month interval where he stopped until he got to the next victim. But the point still remains is that dead people were in there. Once living, dead, lying around until he decided to cut them up, put them in barrels, boxes, freezer, and or take them out of there. So you know damn well that place is going to stink every day. Because Jeffrey Dahmer was on a schedule with picking up these men and killing them and bringing them back to that apartment. Jesus, come on now. And we've heard the horrific stories of people being in apartment homes left for a while. The stories are horrible of what is left behind when they die, such as fluid, maggots, ding, 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 ding. And he was not using embalming fluid to preserve these bodies. That's why a lot of the bodies got chopped up, because he was trying to experiment in preserving them to make them into zombies and mummies. He couldn't do it because, one, he's not a professional. He knew what the hell he was doing. So I ain't heard nothing about maggots. You know damn well after 3 days, there should be some maggots. It's hard to believe anybody would still want to be touching and rubbing on a dead body. And it's starting to stink. It's stinking, rather. And maggots. And release of toxins and fluids. I read here just recently, the body will start to smell after 24 hours after death. So how in the hell were you still staying up in an apartment with a dead body 3 days later and wanting to touch on it and have sexual relations with a dead corpse? Just explain this to me, because I don't understand. And then you got this goofy ass manager downplaying the smell in the apartment when we know death is pungent. And many officers, detectives have said it, that when you get to where you're getting of the location of the body, no matter if it's outside, inside, you know the smell. And you know that smell closed up in an apartment with walls, it's going to latch on to everything in the apartment. The pillows, the covers, the mattress, the walls, the carpet, your clothes. Did it ever occur to any of you what Jeffrey Dahmer smelled like going out into public? I'll wait. How about that? What he smelled like when he left his house, even if he took a shower. And that was mentioned also in one of the documentaries I watched last night. That there was a point when he couldn't get the bodies out in time because he was stacking them up, that they were in the bathroom in the tub and he was standing over the dead bodies to take a shower. Now I want you to imagine that. How are you going to stand in a shower and take a shower with 2 bodies or so in the damn shower? Come on now. So was he even taking a bath or shower? Stay woke. What did he smell like when he was going out into the public, going to work? Because that'd be a hell of a smell, death mixed in with chocolate. 2, when you're going to pick up the men, they didn't smell death on you. The men didn't say, whoo, nice looking guy, but damn, what's that smell? See, this is what I'm saying. You know damn well the red flags were there about Jeffrey Dahmer all day long. From his demeanor, how he carried himself, what he smelled like, and bringing those men back to the apartment. Because once you stepped in the building, you smelled the death. So that's off the rip. Now I'm at the hallway. Now I'm at the door. Why am I even going in his apartment? Because you should have smelled death as soon as you got to the damn door. How about that? So why did these men even go in? So you have to ask all those pertinent questions. We know he was a monster, a menace, sadist. But you also have to ask about these people, these random people he did not know. There was one man they said was his friend that he did kill. But what would possess these people to even go into his apartment once they saw, or let's just say smelled, a very foul odor? Because as I said, if people in the building were complaining, then that means the smell was in the building itself. That means it didn't matter if you lived in another part of the building, another wing of the building, you smelled death. Come on now. Now you are somebody at the door with the culprit, and you're not saying to yourself, I think I might need to turn around. Wouldn't matter what he said to me once I got at the door. You're not going to feed me no fucking story about no fish tank and no deep freezer. Nah, I'll pass. And I'm not going to sit here and believe that there weren't remnants be left behind from dead people in that apartment. You know damn well there was some people, some blood or something left behind, fluid left behind. Do you know how much work that would be for him to clean all that up? That's why at the end he became sloppy. Blacking out, getting drunk, allegedly too tired to even finish the deed the next day, because it takes work doing all of what he was doing. Because one, Jeffrey was an alcoholic, so he liked to drink and buy alcohol, beer. So he's getting crunk even before he even gets the deed done. Waking up, not even being attracted to the men, so he said. Well, then, Jeffrey, you should have stopped. Because you had to know you were going to get caught. Because somebody got away. The guy bolted for the door when he was able to get out of there. Because, see, I would have fought your ass up in there. As soon as that handcuff hit the first wrist, I'd have took the other arm and tried to beat the hell out of you. So I always found that strange. Why did he pull the handcuff trick on that guy, but never tried to latch the other one on? Because when you listen to the guy's testimony, they played cat and mouse in that apartment till he was able to get out of there and run out of there. But then there's the one guy that you cut his throat from behind while he was sitting at your table. And I think that's the guy that wouldn't drink alcohol. So you had to hurry up and kill him. And you stood behind him and killed him. So see, there's a difference in the method in which he killed the victims. Some he didn't immediately pounce on walking in the door. It's always put something in the drink bottle, drink cup. The guy whose throat he cut, that guy didn't drink, so he had to come up with another way, which was stand behind him and cut his throat. Or strangle him, whichsoever. It's all diabolical. But when I think about the guy who's drinking beer with him, that he handcuffed, the one that got away, why didn't he just immediately hurt him? Because obviously he was drinking. He decided to drink with him. And then he saw the guy comfortable. He's comfortable. Now let me pull out the handcuffs. And then he even asked him, tried to put the other one on. The guy's like, no. He knew what time of day it was. Okay, I got to try to get out of here. Yes, he drugged most of the victims, yes, from my understanding. But there's one that he didn't drug because that guy didn't drink. That's the one that he, I believe, cut his throat from behind or strangled him from behind. See, the guy who got away, the one that had the handcuff on him, Mr. Edwards, you can see his testimony on court TV. You should have fought Jeffrey in there. But maybe you were scared, and I think Jeffrey was scared because he already put one handcuff on you. Jeffrey could have easily just started trying to beat you, but maybe perhaps he was scared. That's why I said I think he critiqued his victims depending on their weight and what he thought he could do with them. That's why he drugged them, because I think he knew if I just came out and pounced them, they might get the upper hand on me and I might lose. So let me drug them first as to have them subdued, do what I want to do with them sexually without any complaints, feedback, and then torture them thereafter. Because in the end, it was a game that Jeffrey Dahmer played with the victims. You see, each serial killer method is different. Ideology is different. Jeffrey wanted to make sure nobody would ever leave him. So I got to drug you first, play with you thereafter, torture you, kill you, then have sex with you, then cut you up, drill holes in your head, whichever one came first. And then keep a souvenir. But as one woman said in a documentary, why couldn't he have just dated? Hi, how are you? My name's Jeffrey. What's your name? And go from there. I don't know why he couldn't do it. I think in his mind, he had already set up, people will leave you, so I'm not going to even waste my time in trying to date anybody and get my hopes dashed. I'm not going to sit around and wait for them to leave me, make up excuses. I'm just going to lure them in, drug them, have my way with them, and then finish them off. And that was his mode of living. And as it was said in the documentary I watched last night, he never had one solid relationship with a man. He killed them all. Never once tried to set up a relationship with a man. And there's one victim that actually stayed longer than a day. But when the guy told him he had to go, all sirens stood in attention. Oh well. This one's a runner too. Let's go into survival mode. It was sad because I think that one guy genuinely liked him. And Jeffrey didn't even give himself a chance to see if the guy would reciprocate. He stayed longer than any of the other victims. And Jeffrey wouldn't even give himself a chance to see if he could behave as a normal human being because, see, he had already killed too many people at this time, at this point. So he was already far gone on the spectrum. And it's sad to know that this human being walked the earth and didn't even give himself a chance to love anybody. Because he had already said in his mind that people are objects. They're throwaways. They're useless. They serve a purpose temporarily, and then you throw them away. And a lot of people walk around and behave just like Jeffrey Dahmer. They just don't kill people yet. Many people use people for their money, their time, their bodies. They do the same damn thing, have sex with a woman, man, poof, voila, gotta go. Don't call them, don't answer the phone, don't look their way. This happens every day. The only difference is they didn't murder the person. Because a lot of people are viewed as just that, objects. Serve a purpose at that time, give me what I need, what I want, boom. I'm out of here, gone, I don't need you. On to the next. May double back, may not. This is a sad way to live. To never fully identify with another human being as a human being. And it's selfish. And there's nothing wrong with having sex with somebody and you decide that you don't want to go back, you don't want to deal with them. That is your personal choice. But when that becomes your method, a motivation, then that's entirely different. That I'm only going to go out here and pick him up and I have no use for him or her thereafter. It is cruel. Because God forbid the person wants to engage with you again. Maybe they liked your conversation, then you had good sex, then boom, they're gone. You're not thinking, oh, they're never going to call me and never talk to me again. I actually like what they had to say, besides the good sex. Because people will tell you anything. Jeffrey was a sad human, pathetic human being. Because for a young person to snuff out the life of another being because they had to leave, you are talking about a whole different type of human being, a whole type of ideology. That you would get upset that a stranger you do not know, that you picked up off the street, hitchhiking, you will become that attached to him that you would beat him over the head with a barbell because he had to get up and go. He had to go. How do you even set that in motion? I want to kill this person because they got to leave. But you don't know him. You never met him. You're just drinking beer with a complete stranger, throwing out conversation. The person tells you they got to go. And then you decide, I'm going to beat this person to death. How do you even come to this point in life? Because Jeffrey was a young man when he committed that first murder. And then it subsided for 9 years while he was in the military. So this proves he had self-control. Because that was always his excuse. Once he was caught, interviewed, I was compulsive. It was a compulsion, obsession. But you failed to say, for 9 years, I didn't kill anybody. If that is true documentation. And I wondered that myself. Is that true? Because many people have speculated that possibly he killed people while he was in Germany. I don't know. They haven't linked any unidentified bodies and or missing people to Jeffrey Dahmer. But that is something to think about. How did he keep that compulsion under wraps for 9 years? And yes, after torturing, sex with a body, chopping them up, and then possibly eating them is even worse. I'm going to leave it there at 3 hours. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeAngie129 Cash App. Thank you all so much for your time. This was a 3-part live. This is my Saturday Smackdown, where I bring you various topics in a live. Debbie Collier, first, one of my other subjects. FBI is now involved in investigation. They've offered their services. The Merced quadruple killings in California. A brother has been arrested of the suspect, Mr. Jesus. Jesus, from my understanding, is still in the hospital, but expected to survive. What is the motivation behind these murders? Left the baby out to die in the elements. Eight-month-old baby. Why did the brother get involved? What part did he play? Why did the family turn him in? Could have just said nothing. Many people don't say anything. But thank God they did. Why did he attempt to kill himself? You knew what you were doing was wrong. You knew you were going to be seen on that surveillance camera at the ATM. Why'd you do it? Flashbacks from earlier crime. Vengeance from doing time from the earlier crime. Killing was just the motivation. The sheriff believes that he wanted to do it anyway. Was that his motivation? He just wanted to kill somebody. Had nothing to do with the robbery. The robbery was an after effect. I don't know, because I'm not Jesus. But it's diabolical. A man has robbed and kidnapped people before, and now he kills 4. A man kills people because he don't want to be left alone, tortures them, chops them up, keeps body parts for souvenirs, penises, Easter heart, skull, painting them, decoration, altar. And then a woman goes missing and found dead in a forest. Some believe perhaps her daughter is the culprit. What is the truth? Who killed Debbie Collier? Will we get information on an autopsy soon? Well, he says he didn't have hate for anybody. That the murders were not about hate. The murders were not about race. And they were not about sexual orientation. Those are the words from Jeffrey Dahmer. I have played you content via Inside Edition. Please go to my community board for the said interview with Jeffrey Dahmer. But that is not how the outsiders look at it. See, that's the whole point of why I say life is about perception. He says one thing, but that's not what other people saw. Some people say it was about gay men. Some people say it was about race. Because as it was said in Silence of the Lambs, you covet what you see every day. Truth. You do. He lived in a black neighborhood. He saw mainly black people, so he coveted black men, Hispanic men. Stay woke. Same thing with dating. Same thing. I may want a guy in a suit. I may want an educated man, but I ain't seeing an educated man. I'm only seeing the thug, the everyday bloke. So I'm coveting that versus what I really want. Same thing with killing prostitutes. Easier find. It's in my demographic. Easier access. So I covet what I see every day. The father says the child was not molested to his knowledge, Jeffrey Dahmer. But I find out here recently that he did molest a child, and they're now linking that child as the brother of the boy who police sent back into his apartment. Very diabolical twist there. So Jeffrey was a child molester, torturer, homosexual, necrophilia, and on and on. Check mark various boxes. He's diabolical. He was diabolical. And I found that very disturbing to know he molested a child. 10 months only to come out to be one of the most prolific serial killers ever known in history. Very sickening. But this goes to show you don't know people. That this shy, quiet boy who lived in a house with parents who were bickering and fighting came to be one of the most hated men in the world. And the father spoke highly of his child. The child he knew at that time. He was a good child. But what Lionel failed to realize is that his child was troubled. Hiding behind that shy, awkward child was a tainted mind. Because he became fascinated with death, with animals. And when you go back in the book of life, most therapists, scientists, doctors will tell you most serial killers were fascinated with the death of animals, killing animals, and also playing with fire. So the seed is tainted young. And we've heard it 1,000 times dealing with sadists, rapists, serial killers, and child molesters who then become murderers. They had deviant behavior and thought process as children. Where does it come from? Is it a part of their environment? Genetics? Outside forces such as people touching them, raping them? It's probably a combination of all of the above. But we know that if you don't get any help, you will become a Jeffrey Dahmer, a John Wayne Gacy, a Ted Bundy, a Sam Little, Eileen Wuornos. You will become one of these figures if nobody gets you help. And a child naturally is not going to tell his parent or guardian they like killing animals. They like touching other kids. They like pornography. They like the same sex. They're attracted to the throat, such as Sam Little. That was the most interesting thing I'd ever heard from a serial killer. I was attracted to the woman's throat as a child. Now, you don't hear that every day. And he will tell you before death that he got off on just the strangulation, not the sex. Stay woke now. You see, each killer is different. Each killer does something different with the body before, during, and after death. Sam will tell you his only motivation was to get you alone and choke you, not have sex with you. That was an afterthought. Death was his motivation. Dahmer wanted the company of a human, playtime with a human. But he wasn't realistic because eventually the human has to leave. Others want to have sex, kinky sex, forced sex, then torture, then murder. And possibly sex after death. Each killer is different. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Mind the children. Everybody have a safe weekend. God bless everybody. Woo! I know the Vols won. Sorry, LSU. We had to give it to you. Thank you all so much. Please be safe. Be aware of your surroundings when you are out. Do not think you can be exempt being a victim. And I say this to all children, men, and women. Thank you for following the content. Thank you, Mr. AB, for dropping in. Happy Thanksgiving. Everybody be safe. I'm out of here. I'm about to go get my groove on for later because it's time for me to get out and get me some air. So you all be safe. Pray for me. I'll be back with more content. I definitely want to chop up this debacle going on with Mr. Herschel Walker. He played for the NFL many moons ago. There's some busyness going on with him. Thank you, sweetheart. His son's on social media running his mouth about what's going on with this abortion stuff, and he's running for the Senate, and I want to chop that up because that's an interesting little topic. Can a person change their mind about abortion? It is believed that he paid for a girlfriend many years ago in 2009 for an abortion. There's a card that is surfaced where he sent her a Goodwill card. The son says it is his daddy's handwriting, but Herschel Walker is claiming to be pro-life. Do you think it's right for that to even be revealed that he paid for an abortion many years ago and now a pro-lifer? Was he a pro-lifer at the time that he wanted her to have the abortion? He just didn't want to be a baby daddy, didn't want to have to pay the piper because naturally he's famous, wealthy man, blah, blah, blah. What's the truth? He's denouncing this. It's all a lie. Who's telling the truth? Will the lady come forward? Will she be running her mouth about the abortion? And why would you want everybody to know this in the first place? Let's say it's true. Is it our right to know what happened to him a long time ago, years ago with you? He didn't want to be a daddy, so he paid for an abortion. Why do you want to let the world know that you had an abortion anyway? How about that? Let's be real. We'll chop it up one day. Thank you for joining us, Everyday Shenanigans. Everybody be safe out there.